Hi, everyone. So someone already said, what does L mean? What does L mean? What do you think that means? I can't tell. Is this a subscriber or are you brand new? Hello. So we have quite a few things to talk about today. Okay. I know that people are tired of me probably talking about it, but I finally got this live thing, like the software and the technicalities. Hi, Ray. Hi, Danielle. Hopefully I'm pronouncing that correctly. So I finally got the technicalities figured out. I'm trying to see because I'm not actually sure if this link is the same link that I posted on the community section, because I try to post that on the community section, but I don't know that they're the same link. So maybe I'll just post another one real quick. Hold on. Y'all give me a second. I'll give us a minute for more people to join us. And I'm going to go ahead and post this link just in case into the community section. But y'all, so today we're talking about L's. You know, the male's taken some L's, some pretty severe L's here recently. And we're also going to be talking about some more, I feel like, important things as well, as far as certain things that a lot of us, especially women, don't really like to talk about sometimes. Okay. Oh, where are you from? I love that. The more diverse, the better. Because it actually helps me not feel as constricted when I'm talking about things that are just data. Germany. Oh, I love that. Hi. So y'all make sure to hit that like button if you haven't already, the type of things that we talk about, and the subscribe button as well. Ina, am I pronouncing that correctly? Probably not. But I like your name. So when we're talking about L's, we're talking about the state in which the males currently find themselves in. Okay. We talk about a lot of different topics, especially when it comes to things like the rights of women, where women stand right now, especially in contrast to the patriarchy. We talk about a lot of these other concepts, but I think in the recent weeks, we've seen a lot of things happening. And I've been noticing that a lot of the things that we've been seeing happening have been directly influencing some of the core numbers that we keep track of. Okay. So some of the core numbers that hi, economic warfare. I love that name. So some of the things that we keep track of, for example, birth rates for women. Okay. And there's that whole thing as to why that whole birth rate, the whole thing is put on top of us, on women. But at the end of the day, as we talk about all the time, women are the actual protectors, women are the actual providers. And we're starting to see that more and more. Okay. Now we also talk about the patriarchy. I've been hearing, every time I come in at the beginning of the live, I feel like it's crucial to mention what the patriarchy means, because I feel like a lot of people get turned off by, and y'all, unfortunately, sometimes we have a lot of males infiltrate the live. So side note, if that does happen, let me know if you're able to be a moderator, if that's something that you're open to doing. Last time, I think the first time I went live, the people that kept saying I need moderators, I just made them moderators, girl. And guess what happened? Nothing. Because I don't think they wanted to like actually be moderators. I think they were just complaining that I needed moderators. And I was on my phone. I felt kind of bad because I missed a few super chats. And I was like, let me get through this. So, fair warning. But yeah, so I feel like when we mention and we talk about patriarchy, a lot of times it a lot of people automatically get tuned out because of the word patriarchy. And I'm finding that a lot of males don't even believe that it existed. We have a lot of people that believe that women created the patriarchy or that the patriarchy isn't even real. So there's just a lot of misconception around this word and the meaning behind this word of patriarchy. So I always feel like it's kind of important to just start there, right? Because obviously if you read enough books, you know that, well, patriarchy is a real thing. And really, the bare bones of it is women don't have rights, males have control and precedence over women and children. That is the definition of patriarchy. It's a hierarchy. That's literally it, right? So women don't have the right to work. They don't have the right to own property. They don't have the right to basically survive without a male present. That's the definition of patriarchy. So if we talk about the definition of patriarchy, then we start to go into history and we see, oh, okay, well, yeah, that was a thing until like yesterday. Okay. And it's still a thing even today, right? Because now we're seeing that these rights are starting to, they're starting to freak out and they're starting to try to roll back some of these rights. Okay. But like I said in my last live, that's nothing new. All throughout history, that's happened on and off. Okay. So believe it or not, as women gain more rights all throughout history, there have been a few times where they've rolled back women's rights all throughout history as well, only to find out that they don't have a choice in the matter, right? As far as legally, because society and human beings will just end up doing whatever it is that they feel like they want to do. Okay. Um, it's bizarre too because males are suffering due to not being able to live up to the patriarchal standard. Exactly. It's a very, very, you know, it's a very, very strange dichotomy because males, if you think about it, in a lot of ways end up suffering the most off of their own hierarchical standards. And we see that as, because I think one of the main things that's hard for human beings to predict, and oftentimes we don't even factor in, is just the simple concept of evolution. That's literally it. So, from a historical perspective, all throughout history, right? All throughout history for centuries, right? It was a hierarchical dynamic within the home and outside of the home, right? But just simply by the fact that humans evolve, there's no other way or place to hide or go but to evolve. You cannot change that. And I think human beings often ignore that fact. Okay. They don't consider that fact. And on top of everything else, it's an aspect that's not easily predictable. Okay. So when it comes to centuries and centuries back, women were often seen as the lower class, not even citizens, right? More like burdens, as well as children. And then the male is on top. Okay. Well, at the end of the day, back then, that was easier to enforce. But what we were seeing as well is that in order to enforce such a thing that's so a natural, because by nature, that's not how that structure is supposed to work. That's not how it works. So in order for you to have such a structure, you have to fabricate it. Okay. You have to make it, right? It was easier to do back then because of the standards of living back then. Okay. We didn't have as much technology. Women couldn't work. There was violence all over the place, and knowledge was non-existent. When I say knowledge, I mean things like sciences, right? But as evolution takes place, you start finding that, well, wait a second. Okay. Well, that doesn't make any sense because literally and realistically speaking, males aren't the ones that give birth. Like, how could babies come from a rib? Like, you start questioning more a lot of things, which is why, side note, to be a part of a lot of religious institutions, you're not allowed to ask questions, right? They don't really want you asking a lot of questions because if you do that, you're going to end up, not being able to stick around because there's too many questions being asked and there's too many contradictions. Okay. So as we work our way through history, we see evolution take place. Okay. We see males wanting more, getting greedier, right? And we also see women wanting more. Okay. But I hesitate in calling, okay, this is why they kind of call me a feminist a little bit, right? Because I can't say in good faith that women were getting greedier because we didn't have any rights. So it's like, okay, like we were literally not viewed as human beings. So how do you call that greedy? It's not realistic, which is another definition of a patriarchy, right? But either way, the males start asking and wanting more, and the women stop wanting to play this game. Okay. Especially the more intolerable it gets to be with the male, because by nature males tend to be fairly destructive, and you'll see a lot of males will not deny that. Okay, so we'll get into that a little bit later too, as far as to be honest, if you tell males to their face that they're very destructive, they don't really deny it. What they'll do is like gaslight you most of the time, right? They'll be like, what are you talking about? What about women? What about what you do? What about the role you play? But a lot of times they don't even deny factual information. So women play a heavy role in having to manipulate and gaslight themselves just so that they can justify being around males. Okay. So the more rights that women gained, all like for centuries, it was the same patriarchal standard. Okay. In the 1700s, in the 1800s, that's when we start to see things shifting. Okay. We start to see women demanding for more rights. We start to see, terms coming up like feminists, because those were the women fighting for the rights. And we start to see a bigger, healthier debate around how does this make sense where women don't have any rights and males have all these rights and things like that, right? We start to see very, very smart individuals kind of questioning these very real questions, right? So for example, are males going to be willing to pay for a woman and pay for children and take care of them if they can't exert full control over that woman and children, right? So this was one of the biggest questions back then is, males aren't going to be willing to do that or pay for it or go to work and do all these things if they're not able to exert full control in the household, in the home. And what does that mean? Well, that means if you as a woman or a child don't do something that the male wants you to do, well, then you get punished, right? There's DV, and all of these things were not illegal. It was just the way that it was. And so women were stuck there. Okay. And so the questions start coming up back and forth, but nonetheless, the males didn't want it, but it ended up happening anyway. Okay. Because they never factor in just the sheer fact that, look, you evolve or you die. Okay. So in South Korea, we see a prime example of that. Okay. Because South Korea is such an interesting dynamic over there because they're literally extinct. They're dying because of their inability to evolve. Literally, that's all it comes down to. Yeah, right. I tend to stay away from terms. I am child-free for life and I will never marry. So this is economic warfare. I am child-free for life and I will never marry, not interested any longer in males. Most so-called feminists still date them, sleep with them, and marry them. Yeah. I'm child-free too. I don't have any kids. And I think, from a logical perspective, when I sit down and process it, it doesn't really make sense to me. Okay, because I look at the global state that I would be birthing a child into. Okay, and in this patriarchy that males have created, this is not an environment conducive to children, in my opinion. Okay, you have too many wars going on. You have pedos everywhere. We just had that video blow up. Okay, where what's her name? What's her name? ISIS. Y'all, tell me why the first thing I thought about when I saw her name ISIS was like politics. So that should tell you kind of like the type of stuff that I watch. I was like, why is she calling herself ISIS? That's kind of weird, but apparently that's her name, ISIS, or the new trophy wife. We had her video blow up, and the father, the blood father of the children, is being accused of being a pedo to a 2-year-old and a 4-year-old. Okay. And although that's not surprising to me because I know and I see the data. Okay. I see the data when it comes to the frequency and how bad it really is. Um, Abuse against women from males. Okay, most of the abuse against women and children from males they're not happening from strangers. Okay, they're happening from the people that you're married to, the people that you're closest to, even sons. Okay, to like siblings, even cousins, to like family members. So most of that stuff is usually not a stranger kind of taking you away. Okay, and the numbers are astronomical. Okay. And at the same time, because the foundation of the system that we have here is a patriarchy, there's nothing that you can really do about it. You could try to take the guy to court for being a pedo, and that guy could live most of his life without seeing a day in jail. Okay. Because of all the paperwork you'd have to put in, because you'd have to take him to court, so the system basically protects these males at all costs. So it ends up not making sense to me. Okay. If I had a way, sometimes I think if I had a way of guaranteeing that I would have a girl, then maybe I would consider it. But I can't even say that just because I would feel like an idiot bringing a girl into this environment. That doesn't make sense. Now, if you're rich and you have more money, then you can potentially protect that child more. But we know that most people that end up having children do not have the resources necessary to protect these children on the level that they would need to be protected. Okay. Yeah, I feel that women are complicit with the evils of males because they continuously reward them with life and children. Agreed. We have a big problem in the women's group, right? The gender, right? And that big problem is hate towards other women and self-hate. Okay. This is something I spend a lot of time thinking about because it by nature, women are not created, when we take a look at nature and the way women are, okay, they're not created with all this hate. That's not even like a thing that's supposed to exist. Okay. And we're seeing that that's rampant today. And I think one of the biggest things is women, especially today, don't know, they don't have the self-awareness to know if you're talking about them. They could be hearing me talk right now and, oh, yeah. Meanwhile, they're part of the problem. Okay. So really, they would have to start with that self-awareness. It's a lot of work, but by nature, women are not created to have that much hate. But I think what's interesting is that I see a lot of hate between women. Okay. So when women say things like, if I catch him cheating, I'm gonna, he's going down and she's going down. To me, that's never made any sense. What do you mean she's going down? She's not the one that's married to you. Like, make it make sense to me. Okay. Or, women that will willingly sacrifice children. There's this unnatural level of selfishness that that should not be there based if we just base it off of nature alone. Women are just extremely selfish. And, I think a lot of that is because you can't really, how else do you survive in the midst of a patriarchy unless you want to get demolished? Okay. Like a patriarchy is a hierarchy. Um, but I think it's getting worse and worse because you have women that will sacrifice children. You have women that will sacrifice other women. Okay. And they're making it worse because they're putting so many unrealistic standards on males that where males could never they could never live up to these standards that you're putting on them. It's unrealistic, it's surreal. Okay. So then you end up with a dynamic where women hate women. Okay. Women hate children and they don't even know that they hate children. Okay. And males hate women. Okay. So males hate women as well because, I notice this a lot. Women try to control males. You try to control them. And like, for example, when you're saying things like, how do I get my man? How do I get my man to not cheat on me? How do I get my man to come back? How do I get my man to like, girl, get back up, okay? Because what do you mean? How do you get your man? If he wants to do it, he's gonna do it. If he doesn't want to do it, he ain't gonna do it. What kind of question is that? So they are ridiculous, and the males see that and they laugh at you, and it makes them more resentful of you. Okay, so this is already a patriarchy. So imagine the power you're giving up to the males too easily, so freely by saying ridiculous things like that. And when males say women are too emotional, they're not saying that from a literal standpoint because women and males speak very different languages. So you have to when a male talks, you kind of have to it's like you have to translate what that means if you're a woman because you don't really speak in the same way. But once you get used to it, it's not that hard, right? Because literally and logically speaking, males are more emotional than women are. Okay. When you unalive a girl just because she wants to leave you, that is not a logical response. Okay. That's a highly emotional response amongst other things. Okay. So males are, in a literal sense, more emotional than women are. But when males say that to women, oh, women are just so emotional. Essentially, all they're telling you is that you're mentally weak. That's literally it. They're trying to tell you that they know that you don't have what it takes to do what needs to be done. And usually that's in the form of, putting your foot down on things, or if maybe violence is required, they're basically just telling you, okay, it's not like they're not talking about the emotions that you would be talking about as a woman. What they're talking about is, look, when it comes down to it, you don't have what it takes to do what needs to be done. Okay, that's literally it. They're not saying, you don't cry or whatever the case may be. That's what they're trying to tell you. Okay. So women and men, they speak very different languages, but I think a lot of what ends up happening is women try to push their interpretations on these men, and these men, they lose because by nature males are a little bit like, they're if we look at nature and the way that it's ordered within nature, males are below women. They're supposed to be, and they are, because women have to give birth to you for you to be here. Okay. So what ends up happening is when you have a lot of things interfering with how it's supposed to be by nature, such as the law, politics, all of these unnatural elements that you have to have in order to create a patriarchy, now you have all these other problems that come with that, right? But, males end up resentful when you try to control them like that. Like they don't really respond well to you talking about how do I get him to come back? Look, he could care less, ma'am. If he wanted to be there, he would be there. Okay. So even though by nature women are supposed to be here, women end up putting themselves here. And the males don't like that. Subconsciously and consciously, they don't even respond well to it. Okay. They'll never really, I mean, and a lot of times they'll tell you, but women don't really listen because they're listening through this very like emotional filter. Um, but and males don't like deeply process, so they might know surface level, but they're not sitting there thinking about all of these emotional things. Why is that? Well, how might she feel? Let me translate her language. So we have an entire disconnect going on there. Okay. But like I said, males actually prefer they function better. Men function better when women are here and they are here. Why? Because males like, and they almost can't do without all of this freedom and all of these like YOLO, I'm going to go do what I want type of thing. Right. And they prefer to exist in that world. Okay. Um, so they actually prefer it. Okay. But they're not going to serve it to you on a silver platter. Right, because they're by nature they're kind of, it's just back and forth, that they're very kind of like difficult to deal with, which is what makes them, I mean, they're here. Right, what's happened is women, instead of taking their rightful place, which is supposed to be here, they've dropped themselves here. Okay, so the males walk all over them. Right, it's, I mean, they do whatever they want with them. um Monogamy is a social construct. It doesn't exist in reality. Yeah, monogamy, I've always kind of said that, all of these things are social constructs. All throughout history you see them changing quite often, right? So from one thing to another they'll change. um you know uh same sex relationships, same sex, maybe not necessarily marriage, but same sex dynamics, all throughout history. 1 minute, or one moment in history, it's normal. Like, it's not a big deal. Like, women date other women, males will date other males. It's not a big deal, right? But then the next moment that shifts and changes, and then the next moment it changes back to where it's reverting back to the norm. So all of those things and all of those ideologies are social constructs, correct? Um, and I think it's also ironic because a lot of the things that women ask for, um, that they want the male to be, are they're you're asking for another woman. And it creates a complicated dynamic because males know that. They're like, they know you don't want them for them. They know that you're trying to change them and mold them to be something that, they really don't want to be, so you have to kind of let them either be that or not. You can't try to force them to be something that they don't want to be, or they'll end up trying to stick it to you every time. Okay. Because that's just their nature. So all of these things like caring, loving, I want to cuddle, let's talk, oh my god, how did my day go? Okay, these are women characteristics that you're describing. Those are not male characteristics. And so if you want all those things, you might be better served you know getting with a woman, dating a woman, or getting more friends that are women. Okay. Because that's the only way that you're going to get those things. So let's see here. Women say we're emotionally unavailable, but if we show emotions, they lose respect. Um, I agree with that. I think that, you know, when, I think because the way men and women communicate, it's different. And a lot of times what ends up happening is when a woman says something, there the male is not taking it through like a process of translating what that might actually mean. Okay. And when a male says something, the woman isn't going through the translating process. What ends up happening is whatever the male says, the woman is then constructing her own definition of what that might be or what that looks like. Okay. And whatever the woman says, the woman is then using what she knows to define what that looks like. Okay. So we end up with a problem. Okay. So it's true, males are, here's the thing women need to understand, like males aren't, this protector provider thing has really screwed them over, because by nature males don't have all of this manly gutsy thing. Like women are the protectors, women are the providers. Okay. Males by nature don't like risk. They don't like to take risk, especially when it comes to emotional risk. Okay. So you know, that's one thing that if you're constantly, saying to a male, look, I want you to be more vulnerable or to open up, they won't necessarily know what you mean by that, because you're speaking different languages. The genders are different, right? So you're a woman, he's a male, so he's just going to interpret that however he interprets that, and whatever the result from that, and now you have a bunch of resentful people because you didn't really, she's going to say and feel like you didn't really do what I was asking for, but yet you keep telling me that you did that, and he's going to say, but I did do what you were asking for. So what's the problem? Well, the problem is there's a communication block. Okay. Yeah, especially when women allow men to run over them. Men believe in action, not talk. A reward and punishment system must be implemented like dog training. It's true. Women are, like I said before, I think one of the biggest problems that that women have today is women are mentally weak. You're weak. Okay. So, and males, you cannot reel them in if you're mentally weak. You cannot do it. Okay. Because males are violent by nature. Okay. They're very violent. So if you let them run over you, do whatever they want to you, they cheat on you, you take them back. Okay. Or they show signs of being physically abusive, you stick around and you stay there. Okay. You're sacrificing your children, you're only making it worse for yourself, because males actually don't respond to that. Okay. What you'll find is that the male will get worse because he feels like, what else can I get away with? So when I put myself in a position of a male, I kind of feel like, look, I would do the same thing. Okay. Like if I knew that I could get away with cheating on you and nothing would happen, guess what I'm doing? Okay. So you can't be mentally weak when you're dealing with a male. It doesn't work for your own happiness, and it doesn't work for the male's happiness either. Okay. It's not enough of a challenge for them. Males are very surface level. Okay. So when you do that and then it's all easy, they're going to move on to the next thing. They're not very they're not going to go in depth with you in that way. And you're going to keep showing thirst characteristics and you're going to go further apart, Yeah, they do. So males subconsciously resent women who dumb themselves down, and they know that they're superior to them. The truth of the situation is no male is actually superior to a woman unless the woman allows it. Such a thing does not exist. Because again, by nature, women are the ones that bring you here as a male. Okay. You can't get here if it's not through a woman. Okay. So unless the woman allows that dynamic to exist, okay, there's no male that's above a woman. The woman is above the male. But if the woman is too mentally weak, she's too desperate for a male, and she allows all this disrespect to continue, then he's just going to step all over you. Okay. On to the next thing I go. Okay. So women need to realize and understand that they ask for a depth. They ask for a depth. They ask males to show a depth that males do not have, and they don't care to have. They don't care about that stuff that you're talking about. Okay. So stop harassing them about it. Okay. Like, look, I don't want to do that. I don't want to do it. Okay. Um, yeah, religion is a big problem. It's a big, big problem. So when it comes to, religion's I keep trying to warn people when it comes to religion, because religion, all religion is like, it's like a cult, right? So if you study the history of religion throughout time, you see that even at a point in time, religion and politics were like this, and they had to forcibly separate religion and politics because it was creating such a big issue within society itself. Okay, you cannot really have those two things together without creating really, really bad, huge consequences for yourself. So they had to separate this religion and they had to separate politics. And when you look at religion, and I say religion is a very, very big problem because most abuse of women and children happens within religion and religious communities, right? Now, I'm an independent party, right? My mom is a Christian, my dad Catholic. Okay, I got baptized and everything, but um and I still have this stance. That, look, this doesn't make sense when you actually study it and you study the history of it. It's like it changes based off of, what will make sure that that cult like mentality survives over time. So that's why religion's always changing. Those stories are always changing. They're always updating their Bible and adding things to it, taking away from it. No one ever reads the whole thing. Everyone just kind of like interprets it however they interpret it. So religion is like one giant psychological game. That's all it is. And it's a big problem because most abuse of women and children happens within religion. Okay. That's where you'll find the most delusional women on planet Earth. Okay. Like he could be destroying her in the form of DV, right? Like massacring her face, bashing her face in, and she'll just sit there and not leave. That's where women ignore the most red flags. So a lot of women lose their lives because the religion gets in the way of their cognitive processing. Okay. Yeah, so there's an underlying cause other than males showing emotions that cause a woman to lose respect. There's a I think men are, and this might sound a little bit harsh for men, okay? But men, I'll say this. I think that you are subpar. Okay? They're falling short and they know it. Okay? So men know when they're falling short. Okay? And one thing that a male cannot stand because of his ego and need for control and power is feeling like he's falling short, feeling like he's losing control and he's losing power. Okay. And so males are falling short when it comes to everything and anything. I mean, like, just when we look at the world today, this is a disaster. Okay, it's a disaster. Okay, we got wars everywhere. We got pedos littered everywhere because males refuse to do what needed to be done when it comes to building their own patriarchy in a way that's sustainable over the long term. When a woman is facing DV or a child is facing, there's a child is being assuaged by their father or stepdad, and she has to wait years for any justice to be served. And then at the end of the day, it's not even justice. He gets like what? A few years in prison. That's not going to work. Okay. So males are falling short, and it's becoming a real big problem for them, because although we have a lot of weak-minded women now, you're seeing them trickle into the other side. And when males start seeing women trickle into the other side, meaning, why would I have children? That doesn't really make sense. When males start seeing this, they freak out. Okay? Because again, we talk about males operate on a surface level thinkers. Okay? So what is one of the most important things to surface level thinkers? Survival. So what they're thinking is, well, wait a second. If women are saying that they're not going to procreate, there's going to be less of us. Okay, then we're not going to be able to do whatever we want. Okay, and then what's that going to look like for us? And males are lazy, just by nature, they're epically lazy. So they're thinking, no, this is not going to work for us. So the males have fallen short, and they know it. They know they've fallen short. And so what they end up trying to do is to regain control through violence. And it works. I mean, it's been working for centuries, using violence, but, at a point it doesn't work anymore. That's how women ended up with the rights that they have now, that they're trying to roll back. But the rights that we have now that they're trying to roll back, it's not the first time for us. They've rolled back women's rights before. They've done that before, okay, throughout history, and they end up having to put it right back where it was, because at a certain point, your legal system is not going to be able to keep up with it. People are just going to do whatever they want. They just won't tell you about it. Okay. But you'll know that they're doing it. So at a certain point, it just, it just doesn't work. I read the whole Bible, but I never understand how you can attend church for decades and they never finish the Bible. Girl, I never read the whole Bible. I tried so many times and I just couldn't. Like, it was like the Harry Potter book. My dad said, look, I'm going to get you, because I asked him, like, I want this stereo set. I was like, was I like 8 or something? I wanted this stereo set. And he was like, well, if you read the Harry Potter book, the book was like this big, I'll get you the stereo set. I never read that book because the movie came out like shortly after. Okay. So I just ended up taking my brother's stereo set and never even used I never even used it. So yeah, the Bible, here's the thing that people need to realize. It's like contracts. It's like anything, right? When you're using like an Apple computer, for example, who sits there reading all through those disclosures and legal disclosures? Nobody. Okay. And they know that. Okay. And so the longer you make those things, the better, because even if you read it from front to back, you're not going to be able to take in all that information. And they know that, right? So you have to rely on like common sense and what you want for yourself and your future. Okay. A rib, you want me to believe that babies come from a rib when I'm seeing with my own 2 babies don't come from no rib. Okay, women are the ones giving births to babies and risking their lives out here, like, but you want me to believe it comes from a rib though. Okay, so the thing is, like, it's insane because you don't really even have to read that thing from cover to cover to start to realize something ain't right. Okay, but there's a lot of other dynamics that play a role. I will say societal pressure is one of the biggest things that plays a role, because what ends up happening is people just don't want to ask themselves the questions, and so they just don't ask themselves the questions. Because when you ask, it does come with, like, you have to know what you are potentially going to have to give up if you start asking these questions. Okay. And so a lot of people know what they're potentially going to have to give up if they start asking these questions. So they just prefer not to ask these questions. Okay. That's why when you talk to a lot of religious people and you're like, but that doesn't make sense. Why are you saying it comes from a rib? Like, it's women that give birth. Well, you know, it's just trying to, they'll make up some random, but I'm like, but that's not what it says. It literally says it comes from a rib. Like, where did you get your definition from? So it's kind of like a give and take to a certain extent on a societal level. I won't say, I don't know that religion is needed, but in order to keep order and control of the people, of the masses, religion is a critical component to do so. Okay. In order to kind of keep order and control, like people doing what you need them to do to keep an organized society or a more organized society, religion is a critical component to do so. But I think it's not working anymore because like I said, males have failed. They failed massively. Okay. Like this is an epic fail through and through. Okay. So the males have not done it's like going to work and not doing your job. Okay. Because now what this has become, because of the lack of accountability that they were giving themselves, like not keeping themselves accountable, now religion has become like a safe haven for pedos. Okay. So the younger generations, they're looking at this like, whoa, 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 whoa. I'm going to need to take a second to kind of process through what's going on. Why? Because why should I live the way that you lived? That looks miserable. Okay. So they don't account for evolution ever. That is one of their biggest flaws. Okay, is they don't ever account for evolution. And even if they try to do so, they probably wouldn't be able to because you can't predict what direction evolution is going to go. Oh no. So let me see. Okay, there we go. Yeah, I read. Yeah, so yeah, don't deal with males. Yeah, businesses, politics, mental health. Yep. Wow, you're as pretty as I thought you were. Oh, thank you. The sovereign woman. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. I love that. So one of the biggest things and one of my biggest and thank you for the I don't know if that's a super chat or not because this is only like my third live, I'm not gonna lie, but thank you for the contribution. Appreciate it. One of the biggest things, and y'all hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. The things we talk about, they censor it, but that's all right. One of the biggest things that women need to understand, okay, is that you can't confront males. You can't win against males if you're divided. It does not work. Okay. Okay. And what does that mean when it comes to your individual lives? What does that look like? That looks like saying ridiculous things like, let me see your phone. Who's that B? Who's that this? Calling each other names, all of this nonsense that you're doing, you cannot win against males while you're doing that. Okay. That is literally the definition of a patriarchy. That's the definition of a hierarchy. That's how it stays where it's at. Okay. If women want to get back to where they're supposed to be, okay, because think of Wonder Woman, Wonder Woman and what that world looks like, right? That's a lot more similar to a matriarchy. Okay. So now you're hearing more and more women complain because they don't have the support that they would like to have because we live in a patriarchy. Well, someone's got to tell you, you're not going to have that support ever, because what you're asking people to do is get demolished by the system itself. And they're not going to do that. Okay. Because the system itself is a patriarchy, which is a hierarchy. Okay. Which does not reward anything but individualism. Okay. So if you want that to change, you cannot keep attacking each other for a male. Okay. Even if you argue with another woman, I prefer arguing with women. I'm not going to lie. If I'm going to have a fight or something, it better be another woman, because males get me to another level of irritation that I can't even describe. Like I can't what I would probably like look at I can't even have the energy to argue with a male. Okay. And I get even more irritated when a male comes in the midst of my argument. If I'm arguing with a woman, I don't need you in my face trying to do anything. Like it just is unattractive to me. Okay. So if I'm talking to another woman, like I don't need a male anywhere in the vicinity of that. Okay. So women need to learn that you cannot beat males if you're divided, especially if you're divided over males who don't care. Okay. Like males, it's like, oh, okay, well, that much easier for me then. I'm just going to do whatever I want. Okay. So, and that's what they're going to do. So, we need to understand that. But I think what I'm starting to learn is that, and this is unfortunate, but most women cannot be saved. They can't be helped, really. I could be saying this, other content creators can be saying this all day long, and it's not really gonna resonate with them. What we're going to have to do is just take the women that we can, okay? Because they have to kind of come to this logical processing on their own. Now, one thing that will help is the nature of males being subpar. Like as you know, usually after dealing with males to a certain extent, the woman will say on her own, you know what? Maybe not. Okay. So the biggest advice that I give women is if you're wanting to deal with males, do not get married until you're at least 27, 28 years old or later. Don't have kids until you're at least 27, 28 years old or later, because that's when your prefrontal cortex fully forms and it's like a light switch. Okay. You're able to usually make more reasonable, logical decisions that are not male centered. Okay. So I think women are doing a lot better. And it took economic woes to push us to this point, which is sad because males have always been abusive, but it took all of these economic woes to get us to this point. But I think women are doing a lot better. I see it in the birth rates. We're going to look at South Korea's birth rates in a little bit because that's gone down even further. Okay. But it took women being so uncomfortable economically, right, for them to actually say, you know what, never mind. Okay. And that's not good because that means males have been getting away with this behavior over and over and over again just by keeping you a little bit more comfortable than the next lady. Okay. That's literally all it takes. But then again, that's how a patriarchy works. Okay. So I think that's kind of like the biggest thing. They focus so much on women's rights, but have yet to propose bills that regulate male bodies. They will never do that. You know why? Because the male's body is not useful. It doesn't do anything, right? So they're not going to focus on passing regulations for something that's useless, that no one cares about, that doesn't really add to nature. A lot of the things that males say that they're useful for are things that are fabricated, that you have to make it, right? It's not like women that are born with all of these traits, all of these more innate traits. So even if you're a woman that can't have kiddos, right, you're born with more innate traits like nurturing, right? Just off of your birth alone, you're probably more prone to being a better nurturer in general, better protector in general, better provider in general, because of the level of empathy that you can have. What ends up happening is, your environment, depending on the environment you're born into, that could throw you off. But, they're not going to spend time regulating males because the patriarchy was built for males. Okay. Women did not build the patriarchy. Okay. If we would have been the ones to build the patriarchy, we would have put ourselves on top. We're not idiots. Okay. We would have put ourselves on top and the males would be in the bottom and we'd be yellowing it out as well, probably. But it more fashionably and probably less dictatorshiply. Okay, that's not a word, but so the males built the patriarchy by design through and through. Okay, now do women uphold the patriarchy? Yes, it's unfortunate, but they do. Okay. And religion is a big part of that. Like we were talking about before, religion is just a big part of the problem when it comes to them getting women to uphold things that aren't even in their own best interest. Right. So, um, oh, thank you, Ina. Thank you so much. Yep, I don't even debate men at all. They will try to pit women into debates and arguments. Nope, I will not engage because it's pointless. Yeah, this point for me, I try to find a balance because the problem is most women are still too mentally weak. So if they don't see a debate, like say online, they will probably just take whatever the male says and run with that. Okay. So I'm trying to be more choosy with the debates that I will engage in because it does take a lot of emotional energy. But I am conscious of the fact that like there has to be pushback on these males and the things that come out of their mouth. You have to push back on it. You have to. If you leave it just with them saying whatever they want, then they get worse. The males get worse. And when you think that they can't get any worse, they get worse. So, there's this constant game that you have to play on when and how much you're going to push back. And you're weighing that against human psychology as well, right? So if you push back and say it's on a comment thread and it's like 4 or 5 comments in, you're probably good because 4 to 5 comments in, you've at least probably created some type of reasonable doubt. That's all. That's really all you need. And most people aren't going to go the extra mile to try to look it up or whatever the case may be. But at least it's kind of blocked this automatic acceptance instead of, because most people don't have critical thinking. So they don't go into thinking about, well, that doesn't make any sense. That's not what happened. That's not what's been happening throughout history. So there's this kind of constant game that males force women to play because they know that women are not by nature aggressors. So it puts us in this it puts us in a lot more of a stressful situation to have these back and forth interactions with them. And they play those games when it comes to dating too. Okay. That's one of the primary tools that they use against you when it comes to dating. Think about it, right? Women that are in relationships and, the male will freak out. Well, why are you bringing that up? This and that and that and that. And then the woman never brings it up again because she doesn't want to have that argument again. She doesn't want to have the stressors that come with that argument again. It's the same thing, except it's happening online. But I think that I've been seeing a lot of women. That's why it pays to have more and more women of the logical mindset, because then you don't have to do it alone. Okay. You might say one thing, then another woman sees the thread, she says another, then no. So you don't have to do all of it alone. That's the most important thing. Okay. So when you have a more women-centered way of functioning, okay, everything becomes easier. Okay, like even down to that type of detail. So you might leave one comment and then just not respond, and then the next woman will leave another comment, and then you have, comments pushing back on the hateful rhetoric against women. Okay, I'll say also, I have to control my verbiage a lot of times, but I don't, males continuously trying the same things over and over and over again that don't work and have been proven to not work. Okay. You're trying to roll women's rights back. It's going to be catastrophic for you because all throughout history, that's never worked out for you. We still ended up with rights, and it's worse for you because now women are looking at you like, But you were the abuser, though. You're the one that kept us from human basic rights, though. So they position themselves in these positions that never make any sense to me, logically speaking. Yeah. So I love that facts don't care about your feelings. I love that name. Facts don't care about your feelings. So you're 100% correct. I think that, ladies, um, don't. I think most ladies probably are not in the position to actually sit there arguing with males because they'll exert too much emotional energy on it. They'll get too emotional about it. So yeah, don't do it if it's not something that you want to do. Most definitely. What's really crazy about women is they don't understand that if they decide to deal with males, they will have to share them, mainly with kids, men, animals, women, and what is that? Cadavers. Yeah. anything and everything that walks or doesn't walk, a male will stick it into, right? So we all know that. Women, that I think that's a societal conditioning as well. The fact that women are so adamant about not sharing males, it's because men and women themselves have put themselves in this scarcity mindset that's really hard to get out of. Okay. And they do nothing but focus on males. And when you do that and you don't have anything else to focus on and all you're focusing on is on men, the men will resent you for that, because men do not by nature like to be handcuffed like prisoners like that. I mean, they literally will get violent with you. They will literally get violent because of their lack of emotional regulation. They have no emotional regulation whatsoever, right? So you have to women have to understand that. I believe, my belief is that by nature, males were meant to be shared amongst women because there's only what is it? Like maybe a top 5 to 8% of males that might even be worth our time at any particular time as women. So males are not meant to be taken as seriously as wanting to keep one for yourself. What are you going to do with them? What are you doing with them? It doesn't make any sense. Like, what is he there for? What is he doing for you? It doesn't make any sense, right? So males are not really meant to be kept. But, so if we just go based off of how nature has this thing built, males are not meant to be kept. And most males know that they would be happier if they weren't having to, be stuck with any one woman. What scares males, and the reason why they don't allow nature the reason why one of the biggest reasons why they fabricated this whole thing is because what scares males is, literal extinction. Because again, males function on a surface level. What does that mean? Well, that means at the top of their list is survival. Okay. So, if women are left to their own devices without any intervention from the government, from the patriarchy, from all of these things, women by themselves will only seek out the top 10% of males. Nothing else. Either that or other women. That's it. And they know that. Okay. So they know, well, wait a second. What about all these other males here? So they know that if you leave women by themselves, they'll either go with other women, whether that's being with other women or just fostering such deep friendships with other women that they don't really have a need for a romantic relationship. You know what I mean? So you don't even have to be like romantic with her, so they know that, look, if you leave these women by themselves and you don't put any controls here, the rest of us 90% are screwed. Okay. So, that's the thing that women need to realize and understand, that, look, women by nature, if we go just based off of the way nature has it set up, because it's in human nature for both women and males, women and men, they keep trying to avoid nature and they keep trying to start a back and forth war with nature herself. You can't win lest you go extinct. Okay, you're going to go extinct. If you're not keeping up, nature is just going to keep naturing. Okay, so if we removed the artificial environment, that's what would happen. And everyone would be happier for it, including the males. But only the 10% of males would be happier for it, I guess. So that they know that, but they can't really allow that to happen, because that means there's a whole nother 90%. And what are they going to do with all those males? So that's one of the biggest challenges with that. Yeah. It's unfortunate, but I am starting to see that most women can't be saved, and they will not be saved. Okay, so you just got to leave them alone. Like, I will still tell them, like, for example, they consider it such a surreal mentality to have, right? Like, women that have children under the age of 18 should not be dating. That's not a surreal mentality. So when I made that statement in my last podcast, you can catch up on that if you haven't caught up on that last podcast. I said, because of the whole ISIS situation, women that are below the age of 18 should not be dating. That have children below the age of 18 should not be dating. Okay. And the women were like, what? We can date, we can do whatever we want, and that's really not what I was expecting. Okay. I was more expecting something like, that's probably true, but realistically speaking, how are we going to enforce that? Women aren't used to that. That's where I was expecting the conversation to start from. It's like, that might be a good point. Realistically speaking, that's probably a good way to go. But, if we look at society and the way that it's constructed, how's that going to work? Because most women don't have that mindset. You would have to imprint the mindset into these women first. That's what I was expecting. But what I'm learning is that, most women don't think in that way, right? It's like they fight logic, instead of working with logic and trying to figure out more solutions with logic in mind. Okay. It's just logical, because if you think about it, you don't need a male for any, most of them don't even want to be parents. Okay. You're just forcing them to do that stuff that they don't want to do. Okay. So it's not that crazy. Like, I do it. I don't really date like that. Like, I'll go years and not talk to any male. It's just a lifestyle. It's not a big deal. It's not why do you need a male here trapping him, and he don't even want to be trapped by you? Okay. So he ends up utterly disliking you. Okay. Because you keep trying to make him do things he doesn't want to do. Society keeps trying to make him do things he doesn't want to do. And then you keep looking at him like, well, then you didn't get it right. He's not capable of doing that in the first place, and you keep trying to make him do it, so it's just logic, so I was expecting that conversation to start from a little bit of a different place, which is, ideally, that's a nice ideal thought process to have. I probably have that thought process because I've seen it done in my family, and I know that, look, what's the issue? And I would say that my family, they're part of the problem when it comes to like preference to males, but I've seen it done, so I know it can be done. So I was expecting that conversation to start from a little bit of a higher place when it comes to like, that might be a good point. Women shouldn't date if they have children under the age of 18. That is safer, because logically speaking, that's safer. Okay, it's the safest path that you could take for the child, right? But how can that be implemented realistically? Okay, in the current society, the current structure that we have right now, it's not feasible to have that expectation of most women, because they don't have the mentality yet. This is where I was expecting the conversation to start from. I wasn't expecting a conversation to start from how could you expect women to be the protectors, and I wasn't expecting that conversation to start from there. So it just showed me there's a big problem here. And it's bigger than even I thought. You know what I mean? So we're not prioritizing children, and I can't let women off the hook as much as I might want to. Okay. Sometimes I feel like I'm harsher on women, and then I feel a little bit bad about it, but then not really, because I know that, look, I'm not gonna, what's the alternative? Lying to you? You know what I mean? So I saw, yeah, I've seen with my own eyes, like, look, this is a big, big problem, because we're not even choosing the children that we're bringing here first. We're not choosing these children. Okay. When you have a child, it's nothing but sacrifices. That's why I haven't done it. It's nothing but sacrificing, because you brought them here and they didn't ask to be brought here. Okay. So 18 years of not dating should not be surreal. It should not be this surreal thought of like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. And girl, what? You know what I mean? That's why the males will come back and they blame you because, you're being illogical. They'll say things, that ridiculous things like, you should have chosen better. That's where that's coming from, is because they're looking at it from the males are looking at it from a perspective of knowing their true nature. The males know their own true nature. Males know what they are like. Okay. That's why when you say things like that, they look at you like, why are they so dumb? And they take advantage of that, because males know, okay, yeah, you keep dating and see what happens. They know what you're probably going to run into if you keep doing that. They know that. So it's this very interesting dynamic. I haven't dated since my son's mother left years ago. It's difficult to find a quality woman now that I'm older. Unfortunately, I suspect a lot of girls share men but don't know it. It's unfortunate, because a lot of girls do share males and don't know it. And that's what happens when you, good Lord, my family members keep calling me. That's what happens when women, I don't, I'm starting to see that there is a problem. There's a valid argument that men have when it comes to women taking accountability. Okay. Now, I don't think it's the same as it's not based off of the same type of argument that the men try to make, because I think, men try to take accountability like, oh, you should try to improve yourself. You should try to do better. I think there's a lot of women that try to improve themselves. They try to do better. They try to do all these things. So I don't think that that's the issue, but the accountability comes in being stronger mentally. Okay. So when we talk about quality of women, I think the quality of women is okay depending on where you are socioeconomically. I think that there's more quality women than there are quality males. Okay, so it's kind of throwing off the numbers. It's throwing off the numbers a lot because there's not enough quality males for the quality women. And then we have deeper issues. We won't get into, because I haven't even gone into, I can't get into deeper issues just because I'm stuck having to reiterate the surface level things in every live. But, you start to get into deeper issues, like really, what portion of the population is even procreating? Because if we have the portion of the population that we don't want procreating, you end up with an even bigger disaster, which has happened historically speaking. If you study history, that's happened before and it was a mess. Okay. So I think there are more quality women than there are males. But if you are a quality male, it might be harder for you to get to those women. Why? Because those quality women will probably have higher standards for you. And if you don't feel like you can meet those standards, okay, then you just won't have access to them. And then what you'll be left with are the women that you don't want, the ones that you consider low quality women. Okay. That's the reason why. So there are more quality women than there are quality men. The problem is you as a man probably just don't have access to those women, because those women tend to come with all of these standards, okay? And you might view those standards maybe as unreasonable, and so that means that you probably won't have access if that's how you're viewing it. So it gets complicated for sure. But I think that's admirable for sure, because that's the same thing that I tell women not to date if you have kiddos that are so young. And I feel like you have to tell women that, because women are so unreasonable. Okay. So if you tell them not to date, if they have kids that are under the age of 18, you might at least get something that's close to that. Even if you don't get that, it's like having a wish list. Okay. So it's like you have to kind of play the psychological, you got to play the psychological, game here a little bit more, because if you tell them not to date, if they have kids under the age of 18, maybe at least they won't date if they have kids that are under the age of 10. Okay. But that should be a no-brainer. Okay. It's one thing for that to be a no-brainer for you, but for you to say like, all right, but I'm not there yet, so now what? Like ideally, sure, but it's another for you to just completely deny facts, so I think that's a big problem that women do have for sure. Let's see. Yeah, child-free women, I'm noticing that a lot. That's going to be a big problem for society as a whole, because the women that are choosing to not have children are the ones that you need, because they're a lot more responsible, and you want higher caliber kiddos, because they end up being they end up being better contributors to society overall. Okay, so from a societal perspective, it ends up becoming a really, really big problem if you have low caliber people in general bringing these children here. Okay, then you have a lower functioning society. Okay, let's think about other countries that's currently happening to. Okay, like for example, countries like Afghanistan, countries in Africa where poverty is rampant. And so, therefore, the kids that are brought here are usually brought here by the lower socioeconomic class, maybe the less educated, and it propagates the issue. And as a nation, it prevents you from thriving. You can't take the next step. So they have all of these like domino effects, right? Yeah, most women fight logic. Yeah. Because yeah, I couldn't even stop bringing logic to the forefront even if I wanted to. I mean, like, because it's just like logic, like, duh. Like, I'm going to say what needs to be said. If you don't want to listen, then that's on you. Okay. And that's something that I've had to get used to, because from a very young age, I've been like, let me save everyone. Like, we were on a school bus, and I was on a school bus when I was younger in like elementary school with my little brother, and he was getting picked on, and I remember going off on the kid that was picking on my little brother. Like, I went off. Okay. But then it got weird because then he tried to date me, and then we ended up dating, right? But I went off on him. So I've always had that like frustration of having to accept the fact that, like, look, most of these women cannot be helped. They're in their own way. Okay. So that is the truth. Like, most of them cannot be helped, right? Yeah. So women, I have to call them out. Now I do have, I get the feminists. That's what I get called the most, because I do have, a strong preference for my own gender when it comes to leniency. And also because I study history a lot, so I know what we had to go through as a gender to even get to where we are. Okay. So, but yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, sometimes that message has to be harsher in delivery. And sometimes I compare it to other content creators and I'm like, yeah, you know what? Maybe it's not that harsh. Okay. um, I discentered men a long time ago. So Cami Ba says, I discentered men a long time ago, and it's very freeing. I am able to deal with my child blood trauma and grow my career and focus on myself. Yup, it is very freeing. One of my biggest recommendations to women is, look, if you are trying to decenter men, then set it for yourself. If you go a minimum of 2 to 3 years, you'll never look back. Okay. You just have to make it 2 to 3 years without dating males, without talking to them. It's a clarity that's unheard of. It's unheard of. I mean, it's like night and day the clarity that you'll have. So if you want to start that journey, that would be my biggest recommendation, is to set the goal for 2 to 3 years. I mean, men don't take accountability for grape and pedo cultures, and they perpetuate, which is worse. Yeah, it's true. I mean, which is worse? I think what's worse than that is how much women fight just to be with males, and then you blame the males. Males don't take accountability. That's 100% correct. So logically speaking, if you know that males don't take accountability for grape, for DV, for violence, because in a lot of my videos, I post the research article, okay? The research article where it talks about the United Nations. This is nations, right? The United Nations is almost 200 nations altogether, right? Have all collectively come to the conclusion that it is a catastrophic disaster to society and humanity, the rate at which males are graping, unaliving, abusing women and children. That's how bad it is. It's a global issue. They've made it a global issue, the rate at which that's happening. Okay. So what's even crazier to me is that women will fight. This is what you're fighting to stay with. Okay, that's even crazier to me. You know, the male takes no responsibility. He won't hesitate, most of them won't hesitate to grape you, your kiddos. I was watching a TikTok. It's such a sad story where the male literally bashed her outside the head with a hammer. A hammer. She had pictures and everything, right? And this male still hasn't even gone through trial. But yet you'll have women arguing with me back and forth, asking stupid questions like, how do I get him back? How do I get him to do this? How do I get him to do that? Ma'am. So that to me is even crazier. Okay. It's like just leave these males alone. It's not worth it, Yeah, of course, males have been overproduced, and they know that. Males know that. They will not argue with you on that. One thing about males is, look, if you challenge them, most of the time they're not going to argue with you on factual information. They're just going to try to gaslight you. Okay, they know, right? There's too many of them. Okay, ideally, what we want to see and what the world would probably thrive on is something more reasonable. Like, let's say over 90% women and 5 to 8% males. That's more ideal. Okay. And that's because, when it comes to nature in and of itself, right? Nature has to kind of play its course, right? So the overproduction of males comes from the patriarchy. It's fabricated. Because again, we wouldn't have this issue if they just left women alone. Because if you just left women alone, most women are either going for other women, meaning deep relationships and friendships to where they don't even think about men, or they might date other women, or they might not even date other women and just create communities. Okay, because women, we entertain ourselves very well. You can kind of see even online, you can see the leadership and the content creators that women have, and you can contrast that with the leadership and content creators that males have. Males don't have any that are worth anything. Like what they got, Andrew Tate, that's been to jail like a million times, probably a pedo, who knows what else. They got Kevin Samuels, who literally, unalived, paying for a woman, and that's the complete opposite of what he was teaching his male followers. That's the caliber of content creators that they have, even on a content creator level. Okay, when you come to the women's space, you see a lot more, diversity. You see women kind of entertaining themselves a lot more, like going back and forth. Oh my God, oh my God, oh my. And so a lot of males even prefer spending time here because it's just like more entertaining and it's better, So that's one of the main things. I agree that women should not date with kids under the age of 18. Men in general will not take care of children that are not their blood. It's just natural. Yeah. I mean, they don't even take care of their own children. That's what I'm Girl, these males don't even take care of their own. So it's totally pointless. Not trying to be confrontational, but I just feel like anything men have said or done all throughout human existence is a million times worse than anything women have ever said and done. That's true. That's true. That's true. Anything and everything. Where we are today is a million times. It's because males, have done this. But at the same time, you got to think about these things, right? Like, so who's been the one raising these males? It's not males. It's women that are raising these males and raising the girls as well. So it's not unless women learn to work better together and prioritize their daughters, this is not something that's going to change, because thus far women are they're even prioritizing their sons over their own daughters. It's ludicrous, right? So although I agree with you, anything and everything that males have done, and I covered this in my last live, okay, like 88 to 95% of all crime when it comes to unaliving, rapes, what gender do you think commits that based off of the data, the very raw data where all you got to do is Google it? 88 to 95%. It's males that are committing those crimes. Okay. So what they've done is much worse. The problem is it's a waste of our time to try to, even Kevin Samuels started out trying to talk to males. If you guys didn't know, he started out trying to tell males that they need to change, that they need to do better. Okay. But the males weren't listening to him. And that's when he redirected and started talking to women, because women are the ones that have the most chance of evolving, of changing and ignoring these males and just leaving these males behind. Males I'm not going to waste my time talking to males, because I know that they can't do it. They're devolved by nature, right? XY. So you're going to waste your time trying to talk to them about any of these things. Okay. The only way or path forward is to talk to women, because women are receptive, right? For example, they're more likely to have this conversation back and forth with you. And then you're more likely to be able to kind of okay, yeah, have this, but you can't do that in a male space. Like sometimes when I get unlucky and I get on live and all these males join the live and it's like it's complete chaos. They're like commenting, it's just like chaos. I got luckier this time, but yeah, so I agree with you. Yeah, exactly. So there's nothing wrong about feelings. Completely dismissing feelings as toxic and not healthy mentally in the long run. No, they shouldn't control you. There is such a thing as a balance with logic too. Is that the wrong? I don't know what you mean by that. I think logic should come before feelings, actually. Okay. Even though there's nothing wrong with feelings, you should be prioritizing one above the other. And I think for women, it becomes absolutely instrumental to prioritize logic over feelings. Period. Because for as long as you don't do that, you will keep getting used, manipulated. You'll keep saying, well, the males are worse. And what you're doing to yourself is you're putting more women in the hands of these males. Right? Because you're distracting them. Okay. You're telling them what we already know, that they're worse. We know that. Okay. What we have to do is make sure that these women are not gravitating towards these males anymore and are gravitating more towards women and protecting their daughters. Period. Because they're worse, right? So I think that it's not about whether one is bad and the other is not, and it's not a balancing act either. Okay, I think a lot of people get that wrong. Let me just balance. It's not that either. Okay, for women, it is instrumental for your logic to come before your emotions. Okay, if more women just followed that very simple logic first, then emotions after, they'd be a million times safer from all these males. Okay, but what a lot of women do is they'll put their emotions first, and that's how they get you. Okay, all these K-dramas, all these Disney movies, okay, all these romance books. Do you think that they're counting on you putting logic first before emotions? No. Okay, they're counting on you saying things like, let's just try to find a balance. Let's just be logical. Okay, it's not a balance. Okay, one should come before the other. And you as a woman, you know how dangerous males are. You put logic first. Okay. And then maybe we introduce emotions after that, depending on how it goes. All right. So that's literally how I feel about that, for sure. Yeah. Oh, that drives me crazy. They are so, males are always downplaying the achievements of women, and it pisses me off. I mean, and it's always things that they could never do. It's literally, they don't even hold a candle to women. We haven't even had our rights for that long. Okay. And we're demolishing them in every area humanly possible. Okay. More women are getting the degrees and are in school. Okay. More women are single mothers, and guess what's still happening? They're still taking care of themselves and those children. Okay. So further showing that, look, males, you're not needed. Okay. If you want to be wanted, I'd suggest that you do better. But it's debatable. I don't see it for them. I don't know if they can do better because they have such a lack of leadership. They don't have leadership. And the one or two good ones that they might have, they don't listen to. Okay. They don't listen to. Right. So they always, that's one of the biggest red flags in any dynamic. But yes, they try to downplay women's achievements. And that's another play at your emotions. That's what they're using. Okay. So if you put logic first, I'm telling you, you'll be a lot safer when it comes to dealing with these males. Yeah, for sure. Child free forever. Okay. Yeah. I say that because intuition is a feeling that has saved women countless of times, and there's scientific research behind that, of course. Intuition, you shouldn't look, put logic first, and you shouldn't even, if it doesn't pass the logic test, which most of the times if you're dealing with a male, it's not going to pass the logic part. Okay. So you shouldn't even get to the part where you should even need to use your intuition. Okay, because what's happening is most women are getting with these males and they're putting emotions first. So now you've put emotions first, and now you have to rely on your intuition, and you skipped logic. Okay. That's a lot of, when women use their intuition, it's like, that's a lot of, energy. You're having to like sit there and be like, you got to care to a certain level. So they shouldn't even be getting to that point, if they don't pass through logic first. If they don't pass through that logic filter, why are you going to waste your time trying to use intuition to do this or to do that, So yeah, I agree with that for sure. But that's the order I think that it needs to go in. Yep, these men are so lazy that they say they created this or that, but look back far enough and it's stolen information originated from someone else, typically a woman. Girl, they don't create jack squat. Okay? These males don't create nothing. Okay? The only thing that males create is like, it's violence. That's literally it. Okay? So with violence, that's how they steal, women's ideas, women's creations. It's it's that saying, behind every great man is a woman. Okay? So again, women are the protectors and we're the providers, so they don't create. They could barely, they can't even take care of plants. Literally, if you ask most of them don't even see the point of like taking care of plants. They'll just look at you looking stupid. It's like, they don't create anything. Nothing. Women create it all, period. Okay. And so that's where that saying comes from. It's because it's literal. It's literal. Okay. So it's also one of the reasons why it's like, even the men content creators that they have don't want to waste time talking to other men, because it's like, that's not going to get you anywhere. That's why they always target women. They're always fighting for our attention, because if you want to get anywhere, this is who you talk to. Okay. That's literally it. You can't talk to a male. They don't create anything. All throughout history, when males were supposed to be the providers, the ones working, and then the women in the house, taking care of the kids in the house and things like that. Even then, the women were working unpaid labor through and through. Okay. Building the next generation without seeing a dime for it. So it's like, it's part of the male delusion that they have now projected onto women. So a lot of women believe that nonsense. But when we look at the data and we look at how, if you remove just even a little bit of the restrictions on women, you will get demolished out here. I mean, it's done for. It's like all of the intelligence sector, all of the jobs in the intelligence sector, all the jobs in the corporate, the office jobs, women. Okay. That's why I can't, I can't do anything with males. There's nothing I can, I understand some of the things that maybe might be going on behind there, but yeah, women create it all. And then they'll always try to talk down on you because they know that there's no way on God's green earth, or I should say Mother Nature's green earth, that they could ever even come close. But males remain a problem because of their violence. So then they'll get upset because it's like, well, you're saying that women are so much better than men and blah, 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 blah. So they'll get upset about that, saying, oh, well, if you're so much better, then that means you have equal rights, right? Then that means that you should be okay, right? Well, no. Not when the United Nations has declared it a global disaster, the rate at which you're unaliving women and children. You see how that still puts you in this in a woman haterish situation, you know? So yeah, it ends up not making any sense. Women in nasty work, they use the workplace to self aggrandize and to stroke their own. Women use a lot of things to stroke their own egos. It's one of the problems that we have. Those jobs men exist in only to have women getting things done. They want the role to be amongst the bros to escape home life and have access. Yeah, that's one thing that I tell women about marriage is like, listen, don't do it. That would be my recommendation, is to not get married, because males, women and males are very different. Males are males, women are women. So if a male is getting married, he's usually not doing it because like he loves you, right? He's doing it because there are very practical reasons why he sees that to be in his best interest. Are you going to be the one cooking, cleaning? Are you doing 50-50? That 50-50 is highly embarrassing for males. That 50-50 thing is very, very embarrassing for males. Very embarrassing, and I don't even know how they can live with themselves walking around here asking women to do 50-50 with them. If women have to do 50-50 with you, then we don't need you around. Because when women get married, a lot of times the woman doesn't realize it, but she gives up her freedom. Like a good chunk of her freedom gone. Why? Because whether you like it or not, now you have a whole male that you have to worry about, that you have to live with, if you're going to live with them, which usually is what happens, that you have to check in on, or if they're sick, or, you got all of these other restrictions on your time and your mental capacity, whether you like it or not. Okay. And so it ends up being an epically stupid deal for women. It's like, why would you get married only to end up having to pay 50% of the bills? And you have a male. What is he bringing? He's not bringing anything. Because the males want you to feel bad for them, but there's nothing to feel bad about, because this is what they created. This is what's called a patriarchy. You put your own value, you set your own value as this provider in terms of finances. Okay. So how embarrassing is that for you, that now you're looking to the women to help you with that too? And they're very shameless. It's like how can you have you have no shame? It's ridiculous. And then you have all these other characteristics, like you can't even get with him just because he's, because he might be a pedo. Yeah, girl, 4B, as of right now, there's just not enough quality of them out there, So that's the biggest thing. They talk really badly about their wives also most times. And so I don't really know what the wives are thinking, because if you know anything about the history of marriage, really all marriage, the way marriage started was women were property exchange. And it was the way that they kept track of wealth. So the wealth usually followed the woman, right? So they use that to keep track of wealth and to keep track of socioeconomic status. So when people say follow the money, that's in the most literal sense possible. Okay. If you're looking for the answer to something, usually if you follow the money, wealth, you'll be able to find out pretty quickly, find the answers that you're looking for pretty quickly, right? How did they keep women subdued for as long as they did? Well, they made it so that women themselves couldn't own property, couldn't own land, couldn't own bank accounts, couldn't own anything without a male in the picture. Follow the money. Okay. And what's money? What's money when you sit back and think about it? Money is resources. Okay. What's resources? When you sit back and think about it, resources is survival. Okay. So that's the biggest thing, right? Um, so let me see here. Before I had the statistic that I wanted to show y'all real quick because, like I said earlier, South Korea, okay, that birth rate is looking not so great for South Korea. So let me see if I can like share this with y'all here. I do see, I do see, like I said, a lot of um you just have a lot more of a chance of making progress if you involve women. You can't really make progress if you're dealing with males. I think that's one of the biggest issues that males have, is that no one looks to them. If you're trying to get anything accomplished, you can't really look to a male for that because you're just going to be wasting your time. Okay. So let me see here. Oh, I hope okay, here we go. So let's look at the data. There's one piece of data that I want to share with y'all. Here we go. Yay. So hopefully y'all can see that, right? Yeah, okay. So the fertility rate in I'm gonna mispronounce this, so I apologize, but what is Seoul in South Korea in 2023 was about 0.55 children per woman. Okay. So in South Korea, Seoul is it's the most populated region that they have in South Korea. That's where all the businesses are. That's where all the youngins are. That's where everything is popping and going on. It's like then you have the rural areas. So this is kind of like a really good prediction of the fact that South Korea's birth rates are going to continue to plummet, because if your main central population is already at 0.5, okay, and or as a whole at an average of 0.7, which I believe this is from 2022. We're in 2024. So currently in 2024, they are at 0.5, 0.6 last time that I checked, 2024. Okay, this is not a good sign, because your central population, okay, that's where most of your youngins are. Okay, so if your central population is at 0.55, that's not good. And this number is continuing to reduce. So one of the main points here with this, though, is that South Korea is one of the most misogynistic countries on planet Earth. Okay, women haters through and through over there. Hate to say it. Sorry, South Korea. Someone's got to tell you. Okay, like these women have no rights. The males don't participate in the homes. Okay, they didn't even, the rights that we have here in the US, most of those they didn't even have in South Korea. Okay, and look at how their birth rate plummets. Okay, so now let's tie that back into what they're trying to do with the laws in rescinding these women rights. That's why I say, like, I don't know, like these male politicians and leaders must not, that's not working for them. Okay, like South Korea has even less rights for women, and look at how they're ending up because of that. Okay, there's a lot of other external elements to it, like political jobs, all these other things. But this is this is playing a big role. The lack of rights for women is playing a huge role and you're continuing to plummet birth rates. They're saying that within 50 years, South Korea will be reduced to less than half of its population. Okay. And yet, this is the same model that the US is trying to follow. It's like, look, this is currently happening in front of us. What do you think rescinding rights is going to do for you? It's not going to do anything. If anything, it's just going to quicken the pace at which you see your birth rates further plummet. Okay. Because the women that you do want having children are not going to be the ones having children, because they're going to be looking at these things that you're doing and they're going to say, you know, I mean, it's literally just common sense. It's literally already happening. So it's like, I feel like people don't take the time to look into such simple things. Same thing is happening in China. Same thing is happening in Europe. Okay. And the economy in Europe is tragic and getting worse and worse. Same thing is happening in Australia. Right? So when you research and look into these things, you see, okay, well, yeah, I don't, the males are getting desperate, so I get it, because it's a survival issue for them, to them. We're talking about their survival. But it's like, this is just going to accelerate your demise, because it's like, you think women are stupid. Okay. What do you think is going to happen when we start seeing that we can't get out of that marriage as easily as we once were before? What do you think is going to happen? We're just going to keep jumping into it just because? No. We're going to be like, you know what? No, I think I'm good. Right? So it's just like, it's literally just common sense. And so they really don't think about that. So this is the first L, because the title of the video is like, males are suffering from a couple of L's. This is the first L, because I anticipate that this birth rate is going to plummet even faster, just because it's too much restriction. And when you restrict both sexes in that way, your birth rate is going to go down even further. Okay, because even the males are going to be, they're not economically sound. They're not in a place where they have the self-esteem or the confidence even necessary to even pursue women in the first place. You're going to see even less babies. I'm sorry to be the one to tell y'all. Okay. Like, as far as the politicians go. So this is a massive loss. All you have to do is study history. It's like not that hard. Literally not that hard. Okay. I'm reading a history book right now on the history of marriage. It's a very interesting book. But it's literally, it's all of this has been done before, all throughout history, rinse and repeat. So, I don't know if they think women are just going to sit there and be like, yeah, let me just get into it anyway. Even though I'm not going to be able to get out of the marriage once I get in, let me just do it anyway. Like, are they like, so this is going to be a massive L. This is a massive loss. Okay. For the males, this is tragic. Okay. This is a massive L, because more and more of these males are not even going to have the wherewithal to pursue women. You're just not, because more and more of the women that are going to choose to not have anything to do with you, guess how they're going to be looking more and more in public? Uncomfortable. Okay. Like as soon as they see a male around, you're going to see them like that. Every time males tell me sometimes, like, why do you look so nervous? It's creepy, y'all. Males can smell fear. They can smell it. Okay. Like, it's so weird. Like I'm always thinking like I'm good. Like I'm calming down, but they can smell it on you. It's part of their like predatory ways. So what do you think is going to happen? That we're just going to keep jumping into that, knowing and like we blind, like we can't see that you just restricted all of those things. Like it's not gonna happen. Okay. So this is a massive loss for them. I'm shocked that they can't process through such simple things. Okay. But I feel like it's because males just have a hard time being led. Um, so you can't really speak to them. Again, if you want anything done, you have to speak to women. It's the only way you're going to get anything done. Okay. Even when women argue amongst each other, is the only thing is we get it done if we want to. Okay. Like the males they're not going to be able to do jack squat for you. Okay. So you're better off asking a woman about that. Right. So that's the first massive L that they're taking. Let's see. No, that's not the one that I wanted. The second one, the next one is, well, yeah. So that's a comment. The next one is males, more and more gay males are starting to reject straight DL males for some reason. And I thought I sent it to myself. Let me see if I can find it. But I've been noticing this kind of rhetoric more and more online. So I don't really know what they're going to do, but I consider that a massive L for the male gender in general, because they're having a problem when we are talking about, we as women, when we're talking about things like yeah, I think that's a good one to have. Let me see something here. When we're talking about So when we as women are talking about things like that have to do with concrete issues that are going on in the real world, okay, males are stuck, going back and forth with each other on things that are sexual, like not, now you got the gay males that don't want anything to do with the DL males, and so there's a lot of like turmoil within their gender group that I'm starting to notice more and more. And it's not conflict that has to do with anything that would propagate them to the next level. It's literally conflict that's super, super surface level, talking about, sexual things and not going, anywhere beyond that. So that's going to be a massive, massive L for the males, because they if that's all you're talking about, and that's your cap, okay, you're gonna these males are gonna end up being left behind. Okay, especially the younger ones, they're getting demolished out here. Absolutely demolished. Let me see if I can find. There was a comment that made me think about this, and I swear that I kept it. But I can't find it. But anyway. Yeah. So these males, while women are talking about things like males being pedos, DV, women's rights, okay, these males are arguing back and forth on whether or not they're going to sleep with each other. They're going to go extinct, y'all. At this rate, I mean, it's surreal. Okay, like it's like, so what, I don't even know how they intend on surviving. It's like if their cognitive processing is on that level. So this is a massive L for them. It's a massive L for them. So I don't know. I think their talking points have always been not very useful to them as a gender group, as a species. But now it's going to get worse. It's going to get even worse as women start to restrict access more and more. Because what's going to happen is women are going to restrict access more and more. Okay. And then these males are going to have like be fighting amongst each other more and more because women have restricted access more and more. Okay. So it's a massive L, big time. Okay. Like it, I don't even know what they're going to do. I'm like, what are these males going to do? You know, they're going to have to, I guess, settle for what's out there. But yeah, it's oh yeah, just degeneracy, plain and simple. Yeah, it's insane. It's insane. I mean, like, so women are talking about things that have to do with our literal survival, our rights, the violence that males bring, because by nature, women are not, most of us are, we're not violent. That's why most of the violent crimes, unaliving, pedos, most of that stuff, males. Literally, that's data statistics, period. If you Google it, 88 to 95% of all violent crimes, unaliving, pedos, males. So, like, that's like all of them. That's literally all of them. Okay. So, if, you know, if they're stuck arguing about things that are just like, they can't even, like, how do you, all they can think about is sleeping with something that you stick it in. What can I stick it into next? So now they're stuck arguing amongst each other about whether or not they're going to sleep with each other as women continue to restrict access more and more. So I just think that, you know, that's a big problem for males on several levels. First of all, because these conversations, I mean, the more you have your conversations be on that level, the more devolved you're gonna get because you're not talking about anything. It's like you're literally not talking about anything. And then on top of that, you know, you'll have more males abusing other males as women fight to keep themselves safer by restricting access to males. So you have women on this side, like, and then the males over here, you know, unaliving each other, raping each other, and all that stuff. This is a massive L. Massive L for the males, for the male species. Okay. So I brought up those stats while going back and forth with a male, and he deleted all his comments because he knew I was right. He tucked tail and ran. Yeah. When you bring up facts, males, they don't refute it. You know, the most the male will do is just try to like gaslight you or blame you, like turn around and blame you when what you said has nothing to do with what he's trying to blame you for. It's like, what does that have to do with anything? Why are you asking about women when I'm telling you that 88% to 95% of all violent crimes committed that we know about is committed by males? The most women do is property. It's crime related to some property, girl. And even then, it's still mostly males in the 60-something percentile. So imagine putting us, women, you know, in the midst of these predators. Like, it doesn't even make any sense, you know? And then you put us in a position where, because this is a patriarchy that you have constructed here, you know, if we need anything done, we have to like be strategic in our approach. And then you try to blame women for having to be strategic because they don't want to have to get involved or get their hands dirty themselves. Now you want to blame us for being strategic so that you don't bring us down with you in the patriarchy that you created. It doesn't, I mean, meanwhile, if we look at raw data, if we look at raw facts, you're the one committing pedos, violence, unalivings, wars. Every single war in history has been started by a male. So it's irrefutable facts. That's how you tackle males. Okay, it's like, it's not, I mean, what are you talking about? Like, literally, as a woman, all you have to do is have like 2 or 3 of those. And no matter what they bring up, ask them about that. I'm like, oh, I mean, I don't know what you're talking about, but why is it that all violent crimes and unaliving and pedos is committed by 88 to 95% of you? Okay, they will self redirect really quickly. Okay. Let's talk about the extension of the 4Bs. There's more now added by women to restrict male access to women. I've heard about that. I've heard that there's the 5. I haven't really looked too much into it, but I've heard that there is now 5Bs. And I think that I also heard that at some point there's even 6Bs. 6Bs. And I think all that is great, because one thing that I've heard women argue amongst each other about is whether or not 4B is even useful, or whether or not women in America can do 4B. I've heard males say, as a matter of fact, that's a good conversation topic. So let me show y'all. Yeah, so I've heard. Yeah, let me look at these comments. I'll comment on these comments right here. I'll comment on these comments right here. So I've heard all of those arguments, okay, that 4B is just a temporary movement. It will not work. What I'll say, oh, there's 7 now. Okay. What I'll say is, all we have to do is look up what the definition of a movement is. Okay. The 4B movement presents a very, very big problem for males. Huge problem for males. I mean, I don't even think, I know the males understand how big of a problem it presents for them, but I don't even think they're fully grasping how big of a problem the 4B movement is for them. Okay. Because what it does is it gives women another out. Okay. When it comes to women being able to actually do better for themselves, okay, what we need is opportunities, options. So that's why you see the more control that males try to exert on women, what do they target first? Opportunities, options. Okay. Because they know that the more opportunities and the more options women have, the closer to extinction they get. I hate to say it in that way, but it's the truth. The harder of a time that they'll have, right? So 4B does just that. Okay. So when people say things like, are women in the US gonna be, they're not even gonna, women in the US can't even do it. Women in the US can't do it. It's like you're choosing to remain ignorant. Because it's not whether or not women in the US choose to do it, because women in the US have started to choose to do it, and now they have a label for it. That's a big problem, because now they have an actual label to it, right? So that means they have a direct connection between the behavior, right, and the mental explanation as to what that behavior is, what it entails. That's what labels are for. Okay. So that means you can't ignore it. You can't kind of dismiss it. You can't gaslight it away. It's here. Okay. So you have, the males have a big problem here, because it gives women yet another option. So a woman can choose to do 4B, or she can choose to do 5B, 6B, 7B, you know. And so women have more outs. So the more women are unhappy with you or what you've built here, the more options women are going to look like, okay, what do I do? What do I do now? You know, and this now is one of their options. And so males know that. They know there's a very, very big problem with that. Let me see. Let me download this real quick. Leave it in the comments if you have the information as to what the 5B entails, what the 6B entails, and what the 7B entails. I want other ladies to get a chance to see what that entails. So leave it in the comments if you know. Again, while I do this, make sure y'all to smash that like button for me. Hit the subscribe if you're not already subscribed. Thank you, love you so much. I do the whole face and everything when I'm doing the podcast. Let me see. Oh, I might have to bring my charger here. Okay, so so it presents more of an issue. Let me pull this up, y'all. So I'll comment on some of these comments here. 4B by itself is self-explanatory. Exactly. It means, yeah, just don't deal with males. I say this all the time. Ladies, if you don't know that you're one of the people that is being talked about, this is how you know if you're one of the people when we're talking about 4B, you know, thirsty women, mentally weak women, this is how you know. You know, ask yourself very basic questions. Are you one of those women that goes around asking other women, how do I make him do XYZ? How do I make him come back? How do I get a male that's XYZ? You know, all of these things are a complete waste of your time. Completely. Okay. So you have work to do. Okay. So you are probably one of the ones that's being talked about. Okay. Because you can't own another human being and then complain that they're trying to own you. It doesn't make any sense. The logic is not logicking. The math is not mathing. So if you're asking these type of questions, you're not on the right track. Okay. So let's see. 5B, ignore misogynistic males in all spaces. Duh. Yeah, definitely. I love that. I love that we added that on there. And women, you know, they'll keep adding stuff to it because the more opportunities and the more of a chance they get to label these things, because society functions off of labels. Think of how one of the main psychological or forms of psychological controls that males use, it's labeling. Spinster, cat lady, princess what is it, princess treatment or whatever. It's labels. Society functions off of labels. So, you know, they have a big problem when it comes to this. Oh, my closet. Okay, maybe I could show y'all my closet. And then I think I need to grab my charger. So I'm going to have to grab that. But what I did was, y'all, I turned one of my bedrooms into like a beauty room. Okay, so I made the bedroom into a beauty room just because I wanted more space for all my clothes and things like that. So I had a build out done. Okay, so I have, let me see if I can show y'all. right? So this is like, I feel like this is the worst tour ever, but you know, so I kind of built out this space right here. Let me see if I can show y'all. I can flip the, I don't know if I don't even know if I know how to flip the screen on this quite yet. But yeah, so it's like, it's a whole, yeah, it's a whole beauty room. I don't know how to give tours, so I'm just trying to improvise. Yeah. So I made it a whole beauty room. I'm thinking about like, thank you. I'm thinking about, you know, maybe putting some like doors or like some nice, like fancy little doors that like closet doors that close and open. But maybe not. I don't know. I don't know if I'm going to end up doing that. Let me grab my charger and I'll be right back. Oh, thank you. Thank you. This is why I always fight for more women in my space, because the vibes are surreal. Okay. Thank you. Thank you guys. So if anyone also knows like the 5B, the 6B and 7B information, let's go ahead and post that for other ladies to see as well while I grab my charger here. Okay, let me see. Okay. Good deal. You said you looked, I just looked it up on, and that's the answer you saw. Okay. I'll look into it and I'm usually pretty good at getting the answers. So. There we go. Okay, good. So let's take a look. So we're talking about 4B. Let me share my screen here. I think it's this one. Let me try it. Okay. So this person said to me, not to me, I'm delusional. This person said in like a comment section and just kind of left the comments and saying maybe in the United States, as women have done similar things in the past, but it has fizzled out. But the South Koreans' population, where 4B started, is actually in the decline with more unalivings than births. I think it's working for them. And politically, the rhetoric is promoting more aggression from men towards women, attempting to force them to date males, which backfires spectacularly. Okay, so I really liked this comment because, you know, it has a lot of, thank you. Thank you guys. So it has a lot of facts here when it comes to the 4B and the things that we talk about all the time, right? They're getting more aggressive. Let me see. Yeah, 5B, so the 5B is no talking with males. 6 is no buying misogynistic products, like a pink tax, y'all. So my study downstairs is all pink. That's why I got excited when I saw pink tax. Okay, I love that. And then 7 is women support women. Girl, why is that number 7? That should be number 1. Okay, but yes, I love that it's in there too. Women support other women. That's a very big problem that I've also seen that South Korea has, is they don't support other women. There should be more women, standing up for the women that are part of the 4B movement, but instead the women over there try to distance themselves. A lot of them try to distance themselves from the 4B movement, knowing good and well that they themselves are standing on business. They themselves are not dating the males. So I don't even know why it's like they don't want the label, they don't like the label, even though they're doing the exact same thing, right? Yeah, 39B pretty soon. Yeah, we'll be at 39B pretty soon. No, I don't think you are. I love these types of lives. Like some of the ones that I did whenever I first did the lives, and the males, because I'm an INFJ, so the comments were just, and there were so many males in there that I couldn't even, like, I'm trying to like process through and respond to all these males at the same time. It was not fun. Okay. This is more, more like it for me. So yeah, like, I think I'm in full support. I'm definitely in full support of the 4B, the 5B, 6B, and 7B. Humans love labels, so I'm not surprised that it's getting more and more as far as like 4B, 5B, and all these other things. And I think that like it's going to be a driving force, because that's what the definition of a movement is. So ladies, take note of, let me see who gave me that answer. Purple Moon Storm, thank you for giving us that information. I love that. So make a note of that information. As far as I'll probably include it in the next podcast as well. As far as what the 4B consists of, the 5, the 6, and the 7. Okay. Oh, yep. INFJ. Okay. Yes. Okay. I'm an INFJ. I love that. So there's no more investing. Yeah, exactly. Avatar, The Last Airbender. I love that show, actually. So I'm a full supporter of anything that gives women more rights. I'm a full supporter of anything that gives women more options. Okay. And I think, although sometimes I'm not gonna lie, sometimes I feel bad if I feel like I'm being too harsh on women, but at the same time, I gotta do it, because I know like sometimes the women will not listen, unless you really, really come with the information. But I think like 5B is 4B, 5B. Every time I go to videos, what I've started to do is I'll just leave a comment that says 4B, 4 bear. I know. And so it really helps, I think, with infiltrating certain spaces and putting those things in there, because it gives women more options. One of the biggest things that it does is it lets women know that they're not alone in their experiences, especially when it comes to males, when it comes to oppression. And women are correct. You're correct about that. Males are worse. They really suck. And I agree. I think it's their fault, honestly, because they built this whole thing, and this is how they built it, right? Well, but at the same time, at a certain point, we realize that it's a complete waste. I can't even express how much of a waste of time it is trying to talk to these males. You'll get nowhere. Like literally, it's like talking to a rock. Okay, like you're not gonna get. The only progress that you can make is through women. That's why that's where I spend my time, because I'm just like, I don't feel like wasting my time. So that's the biggest thing there. And then there was this other comment too. Let me see if I can share that. I'm starting to put B's in their place. Oh, you're an INFJ too. Yeah, I love that. Yeah, I'm an INFJ, so I need, I would probably be the type of person to stay really far away from relationships because I need more peace and quiet than the average person probably does. Um or I'm just gonna lose my mind. Like I can't even do it. So everything has to be like pretty peaceful most of the time for me so that I can kind of shift through and process through my thoughts. I love that. Yeah. Like INFJs make up, what is it, 1% of the population? It's insane. So I'm like, I can't believe it. Yes. What sign are you guys? Are you guys into signs at all? What signs are you? Astrological sign? I'm not really well versed on that. I'm not gonna lie. I'm not well versed on it, but I know that a lot of ladies are. So let me see if I can pull this up here. There's another comment that caught my attention. And it was this one. Capricorn. Okay, Capricorn. I am a Gemini. Capricorn in the house. I've heard some really good things about Capricorns. Okay. I've heard some really good things about Capricorn. Virgo. Okay. My channel is like diversifying. I love that. Okay, we got Capricorn, we got Virgo. So let me see. Okay, so there's another comment here. Is that this one? Or is it that one? Cancer. On the cusp of Gemini. Oh, okay. Me neither. I know I'm a Gemini, but that's like I read, so Capricorn, Virgo, Cancer. What I'll probably end up doing, believe it or not, is I'll probably end up like once I get off the live, I'm probably gonna go Google just out of curiosity. Geminis, yes. Out of curiosity, I'm probably gonna go Google like some of the characteristics or personality traits, just because I like kind of reading on them. Verdict astrology more. Okay. You're gonna have to tell us a little bit more about that. Find a verdict to be more accurate too. Interesting. Okay. I'm gonna have to look more into that. So here's another comment. Honestly, while Herbie isn't wrong, the attention to 4B in America is largely women-led. Okay, what is it supposed to be, male-led? I don't get it. I would implore us. Ooh, okay. I haven't read these comments in a while. I just like screenshot them when I read them. I would implore us queer males and what is masks? What is that? MASCS. What's that supposed to be? To stay vigilant too. Males betrayed us as well. And if we see a bunch of actually, I'm trying not to say these words on the live. So, frustrated conservatives, I think at least some of them will resort to doing some shady DL antics, and we can try to keep mind to vet males we hook up with. This is the one I was looking for when I was talking about that whole, like the second L. And we can try to keep mind to vet males we hook up with. And if they voted for the, orange guy, or you suspect that they did, and they're just looking for a hookup, then we have to stand up to support and protect our people. We males shouldn't give them a crumb either. And that has 2.3K likes. Okay. So there's going to be some internal fighting within the male gender community. Okay. While women are like, yeah, I mean, because what do they expect us to do? There's nothing we can do about that. They're going to be fighting amongst each other, arguing about who to have sex with and who not to have sex with. within their group. Um, yeah. Yeah, I spend a lot of time alone as well. Yep, yep. This is I'm not, I don't either. I try to be more tolerant. But my preference is to not have males in the group just because it's just a little bit easier to manage when it's like a bunch of women. Okay, because I don't know how to describe it, but once you get used to managing women, it's kind of like a better experience than trying to get a bunch of males to settle down and get a bunch of males under control. It's like so my preference is just to have, like, that's why I put girlies in the name of the group, not knowing that that might attract them even more, right? But that is also my preference. Also, I feel like males have enough groups. So whether or not they're gay or whatever, like, I tend to not care. I feel like, well, you have the same rights as everybody else now, so fair game. So go make your own groups, right? Because I just feel like they don't allow women to have enough of our own things. It's weird, and so it's my preference that they don't. Um, but if they're asking good questions and stuff, I tend not to be mean or rude or anything, but that is my preference for sure. Um, Girl, there's a woman including Transformers and others into 4B as feminine. Oh, girl. And they know we don't want them there because I see comments all the time saying, well, they don't even like gay people. They don't even like trans people. Yeah, we don't want you here. So go make your own. I feel like they're always trying to like build on top of like our work. It's like, this is our thing. This is our group. This is our thing. Build your own. Okay. And then maybe we can collab if it's in our best interest to do so on certain things. But don't try to infiltrate. Like, don't try to like come over. Maybe we can do a collab, depending on what we're talking about. But don't try to infiltrate, and now you're mixing in this and mixing in that. It's like, no. The focus for 4B is on women. That's literally the whole point, right? Because I said it would be women. I say that all the time. Sometimes I can be a menace in the comments section. I even tell them, like, why don't you worry about what you and your bros are going to do as far as sleeping with each other, and take your DL, your bros that are on the DL, take them with you. Okay. Because I think that it is ridiculous the rate at which males will marry women, have children, and then only to find out you gay. That's happening more and more. And I think that that's ridiculous, where you don't even care enough about children to just be who you are from the start and not get them involved by bringing them here onto this earth under false circumstances, So I tell them, like, that's y'all's problem. Yeah, I mean, you're all males. I'm sure you'll figure it out. Okay. Like, I don't know what they're going to do, but we as women, we have enough problems of our own. We have our own gender going out of control, male crazy. We have our own stuff that we're dealing with. So yeah. Yeah, a lot of them are in I think, I honestly, I think I think over 90% of males are totally gay. I'm not even going to lie to you. Like, I think that percentage is high. Because males will do and stick it in anything and everything. Okay. Another reason why I tell women, look, don't do this marriage thing, because even till today, the male could literally grape you and they don't count it as grape because you signed that contract. Okay. It gets a lot harder to say, like, hey, this dude totally took advantage of me without my consent, all because you signed that contract. So marriage was not made for women and the best interest of women. Okay. Historically speaking, up until recently, like the 1900s or the early 2000s, grape was legal. There was no laws against it as long as you were married to her, because they considered you as property. Okay, so that was not that long ago. Okay, and even now it's hard to prove, because they feel like, oh, because you're in a relationship with this male, or because you're married to him, then was it really? And then you'll have people from your own gender group asking what you did wrong to cause that reaction. You have other women saying, well, women lie about this all the time. I don't know when women will learn that you take the side of other women in public, and then if you want to discuss something, you bring that in house. Okay, you don't oppose other women on such critical topics blatantly. It doesn't even make sense to do that. You're fighting against yourself, right? I don't know when they will learn that, but yeah, I tell them all the time. But I think over 90% of males are gay, straight up, complete homosexuals, and we just need more and more of them to come out the closet. Because they need to just come out the closet so women can make more educated decisions. Okay, because it's going to take some time for women to acclimate with the thought process that a lot of the things we look for, males don't have anyway. It's women that have that. Okay, so even if we're not sexual with women, as long as we build the communities of women, friendships, support around women, that's really what we need. Males are the ones that have to just be sticking it in anything and everything is about sex with them. It's like they can't process beyond that. So they just need to come out the closet. And I tell them, even in the comments section, because it's not like we're not going to do anything to you males if you come out the closet. Most of us women, what we're going to do, if you just keep it 100, keep it real, come out, be out the closet, all we're going to do is redirect you in the correct direction, which is not in the direction of us, because we're women. Okay, we don't have what it is that you're looking for down there. So we're just going to kind of gently, kindly redirect you towards your bros. Yeah, that's literally all that would happen. So they just need to come out the closet for sure. But I think most of them are epically gay. So, women, if you're dealing with them, you got to be careful about that. Yeah. It's like, can we discuss our personal bodies and menstruation amongst women, please? Yeah, exactly. They can create their own safe spaces. We need more diversified groups, and women need their own actual natural born women, and girls need their. Exactly. Yeah. That's a huge, 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 very important point. Born women. I don't know. Like, the level of delusion today is surreal. Like, these males walking around calling themselves women, talking about that's how I identify, but that's not what you are. It's completely counter nature, and it's going to backfire. It's already backfiring on them because, again, like I mentioned earlier in this live, humans always try to fight war against nature. You cannot win when you try to fight nature. That's not a battle that you can win. You're born as what you are what you are, period, no matter what you do, right? So when it comes to things like gender, so they need different groups. You can't just come in and try to infiltrate, natural born women's groups. Like, form your own. Okay. If things come up and we can benefit by collabing, then maybe we can do a collab. Okay. But you can't infiltrate our groups because you're not a natural born woman, so I agree with that. That is the sentiment that I stand by for sure. Yeah, they're so delusional, and like they'll put on like these clothes and think that that's the definition of what it means to be a woman. And it's like, are you like kidding right now? Just do that over there. Don't bring that over here. Okay. And then you see that no matter how much they try, they can't really escape their nature. They're lazy, right? Like, most of them will come here and try to infiltrate women's groups just so they don't have to go through the work that it would take to create their own group. Okay. I used to be a little bit more of a supporter, but I noticed that once they got their rights, they started turning on women and insulting women more and more. That's not going to work. Okay. So I was like, oh, no, 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 no. I was trying to be like supportive, but I guess there has to be boundaries to everything, limits to everything. And that's kind of where we have to keep it, and now these women can stay over there with them and just can't. They can't come. The thing is, like, if you'll ruin the rest of the group. You'll ruin the other women that are not on that time. You're now a threat to that dynamic, right? So you can't come. Like, if you're like all for the males and blah 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 blah, then you have to stay over there because that's what you like. You can't come over here, harassing the rest of us and trying to infiltrate, right? Satanism isn't misogynistic. I don't know. Tell us more about that. I'm not well versed on that topic. Men are scary, makeup or not. I've noticed that. Like, it's like they can't escape it. They're like violent by nature. Like, even with each other, the rates of like DV amongst each other is surreal. And what makes it even worse for males is males won't leave. Like, women will be like, this is not healthy. That's why the divorce rates are higher, because women will be like, this is not healthy. It was good while it lasted. Goodbye. Because it's, why are we going to stay in something that's not working? Males will stay. And they still have the same level of violence, even amongst each other. So makeup or no makeup, clothes or no clothes, they still are they're still the same way, which is insane to me. I mean, it's totally wild to think about, but yeah, I agree with that. Yeah. Yeah, that's how I feel as well. I don't want delusional women in spaces with me. They decided to betray womanhood to stay, and they need to stay over there. Yep, agreed, because it's the truth. I think I talked about this in my last live, you'll have women that say, not mine. He would never cheat on me. Like, and I said it in my last live. Well, then you better die on that hill. Matter of fact, don't say anything to anybody. As like, when he cheats on you or he's whooping the crap out of you, you better stay over there and don't say Jack's looking for all this empathy and stuff. Meanwhile, you were a woman hater through and through. Yeah, it's the same exact thing for women that can't get with the program and cannot seem to reprogram their self-hate. I forgot she is controversial, though, due to her political leaning. Oh, I don't know who we're talking about. Yeah, it's it's true. It's no different from men trying to control women. Yeah, it's true. So yeah, like, that's why I said at the beginning of this live, one thing I've had to get used to is most of these women, you're not going to be able to save. You're not going to be able to help. And you probably don't really want them in your space either. Because they aren't, there's a certain environment that you have to create. And women are a lot more sensitive as well. So like, for example, that's why a lot of women don't like doing the back and forth arguments, because it's emotionally stressful for most of us to sit. Like, to sit there trying to explain common sense to you and you still don't get it, you know? And so that's not a pleasant experience. So if you have women that are coming in with that mindset and, kind of disrupting the whole thing, it just becomes more stressful than it needs to be. And I just feel like, well, if that's how you feel, then, go find the space that makes more sense for you, which is going to be amongst males, probably. And males don't care, like they'll make fun of you. They don't give a crap about whether or not you're on their side. They're just gonna be like, okay, whatever. So yeah. Mm-hmm. The heart of man is desperately wicked. Yeah, they mix in truths in there. That's a good observation. That's part of, men will tell you to your face. And if you're choosing not to listen, then that's a different story. But they're literally telling you. I had a live that I did on our men demons, our males demons. In that live, we talked about that, how men literally tell you to your face what they are. And, you just gotta wrap your mind around it. And most women aren't willing to wrap their minds around that. Yeah. Yeah, that's what I've started to realize is like I've started to tell them, you know what, if that's what you want to do, then go ahead and do it. If you feel like women that say things like, well, not all men, like the men are laughing at you every time you say that because men know their own nature. They know what they themselves are capable of. That's why most men are scared of each other. Why do you think they don't even check each other? When they misbehave, when they do something terrible, one of the main reasons why they can't even check each other is because they're scared of each other. And one of the main reasons why they're scared of each other is because they know the extents at which they're capable of without even batting an eye. I mean, he'll unalive you and sleep really well that same night. Okay. That's what males mean when they say things like, women are too emotional. That's what they mean. It's like, well, you can't do what needs to be done, but I can, right? They're talking about violence. They're talking about unaliving. Okay, that's what they're talking about. When they start talking about like politics and stuff, well, women can't be president because they're so emotional. That's what they're talking about. Because think about all the wars that we have now, the way they built the patriarchy. What they're saying is you're not going to be able to be aggressive enough. You're not going to be able to actually lead wars if we need to be in wars, right? They're talking about violence. That's what they're talking about. Mm-hmm. I think our future will be smaller communities throughout society. Our rule government by white males isn't helping anyone. Yeah. White women benefit the most from that structure. So I noticed that most YT women are the ones that voted the Trump in. I don't know. That's going to be an interesting, I think it will be better for society if we do have smaller communities throughout. Because again, it's hard to ask. I mean, because they built it in the midst of a patriarchy, it's hard to tell women to give up, if they feel like they're benefiting more. It's hard to like reasonably say you should give that up because even though it is going to be better for them too, it's a hard request to make because there's no guarantees, and they would have to give up feeling like they're better than maybe other women. So I think that it would be in the best interest of society to operate off of smaller groups and communities. Yeah, for sure. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. Shaka. Okay, I've never heard of her. Yeah. Yeah, white women will. I agree with that. I mean, they will always align themselves. White women will always align themselves with whiteness first because that's where most of their privileges come from. Okay, so they'll always align with that first. Yeah, it's one of the biggest tools that men have and that patriarchies have. You know, it's one of the most efficient and effective tools that they have. Mm-hmm. It's just, I'm trying to convince my mom. She is almost there. Her mindset is still to live with a male and have two separate spaces, but merging in the middle. Mm-hmm. Yep, they're laughing. Those women who won't hear must feel. Yeah, yeah. Males are. Mm-mm. But yeah, I think the older women. Um, I feel you on that because, I feel like, my mom's kind of the same way. I kind of feel like she coddled my brothers. So the women in the older generations, I don't know. It's tough for them to get there. I'm really impressed when I see older women that have um, a perspective that doesn't involve centering males. I'll say it in that way. It's impressive to see because it's rare. Hmm. So I agree with that for sure. Yeah, most men show women how they prioritize their gender above race. Oh, that yes, and that's one thing that it's like I don't understand if women are just acting blind to that because males will stick up for each other no matter what. And I mean, I'm telling you, like males compared to women, they don't even know what 2 + 2 is, girl. Like you could ask them what 2 + 2 is, they don't know. Okay, like they're not smart, right? But the one thing that they do very well is stick up for each other no matter what, no matter what. So yeah, they'll definitely prioritize being males and they love being males. Women hate themselves. A lot of women hate themselves and hate other women as a result of that self-hate. But males are not like that. They love being males. They love, feeling like they're the victims as males, even though this whole patriarchy was what they put together. So for them to try to cry victim and misandry is insane. It's not possible because misandry would be the hate of males systematically. Misandry would literally have to be the systematical and governmental hate of males. So that's why people say, and that's why I say, that's not a real term. It's impossible because the system and the government itself is a patriarchy. So yeah, it's insane. Um I remember laughing, not that it's funny, when in an interview a rural Indian father acknowledged that it would be better if his daughter got the education she needed to better society, but instead wanted her to get married. I know. It's like they can't help themselves, you know. It's like they can help themselves. So it's up to women to choose what they want for their own future. Okay. And I often also feel like a lot of women are just too selfish because you bring children here and I know you can see all these wars going on. I know you can see all these pedos. I know you can see all these things. So how can you justify making such a decision under the premise of not wanting to die alone? Dying alone is literally a male fear. Women don't have that fear by nature because we bring life by nature. So if a woman fears dying alone, that is a fabrication of the patriarchy. What does that mean? Well, that means you fell for it. Okay, males fear dying alone. Women don't have that fear, naturally speaking. So if you fear that, you're getting played by the patriarchy. Like I've said before, if it's that serious, the most the woman has to do is adopt a kid, give birth to a kid. That's the most she would have to do if it's that serious for her. So women have more of their own. Women have more control over their own future than males do. So that's a male fear. The fear of death alone is a male fear projected onto you. So if you fear that, if you fear loneliness, if you fear being alone, okay, that's a projection. You fell for it. Okay. It's males that have those feelings because they have less control over those type of things. Okay. So they have more fear of being alone. They have more fear of dying alone as well. Mm-hmm. Yeah. We did a podcast on Indian males and showed a little bit of a snippet of how bad they are. It is terrible. But that's why most of them live in poverty over there, because the women don't have any rights. So you can see the societies that have a harder time. And this live has gone a little bit longer, so we'll probably be wrapping up the live here soon. But you can see the societies right in front of us, the societies that refuse to evolve versus the societies that have managed to do some evolving, right? For example, South Korea, they refuse to evolve and now they're literally extinct. Literally in the next less than 50 years, half their population will be gone. That's the projection. There was a simple solution to that: evolve. Literally it. Your society needs to evolve, but they weren't able to do that. Okay. You can see that in India as well. Okay. In the way that they live, most of the country lives in poverty. There's a simple solution to that: evolve. Okay. They're not able to do that. What happens as a result of that? Most of their society lives in poverty. Okay. Same thing in African countries, right? You can see it's a simple solution. All you got to do is evolve. They're not able to do that. So most of their society continues to live in poverty. America is going through the same thing, but it's not as severe as the countries I just mentioned. They've been able to do a little bit more of the evolving, but now they're backtracking. But they've done that before. They've backtracked before. So it's going to all have, if America wants to retain its positioning on a global scale, it will not have a choice but to evolve. Lest it falls behind, it's not going to be able to retain its positioning as the number one, country, say per se, unless it evolves. That's how it's been able to do it. So it's very, very simple math there. Yeah, I don't fear death anymore. Living is literally terrifying sometimes. Yeah, if you think about it, and then the more you hear on the news, the more you hear about pedos, the more you hear about, I get so just like disgusted with feeling like I have to be a part of like the human species when I hear about these things. Like, how is that even possible? Like, how is that even, what am I even hearing? So yeah, once you start really looking around you, you start realizing that, hey, being alive is much harder, okay, than like floating in the ethos somewhere, like none the wiser. Okay, that sounds pretty easy to do, but instead you're like stuck here, and you got to like live amongst all these things that you don't have direct control over a lot of times. So yeah, like when males say that, that's why I tell women, like, if you're just starting your journey, like start with like 2 to 3 years away from males. And you'll snap out of it like that. Okay, like, because you'll get used to doing your own thing. You'll get used to, like, that dying alone thing is nothing. Like, if it's that serious, you'll build a community. You'll build a channel. You'll take classes. You'll fill your time with things that actually make you happy, as opposed to things that society tells you should make you happy. It is hard to make new friends right now. I agree. I always recommend like different groups, book clubs, activities that you enjoy doing, things like that. Yeah, very ghetto and would not recommend. Exactly. Exactly. I wouldn't recommend it to anyone. And the ones that can get away with it, the ones with money and resources, notice how they're the ones that don't pop out kids. Okay, they don't. Okay. It's the people that are lower in the socioeconomic ladder that end up, popping out these kids as if there's no tomorrow. Okay. It's tragic because it's a perpetual cycle if you bring these kids here and you're poor. It is a tragedy because the kids are like stuck in that from generation to generation. If there is abuse going on, DV going on, and you bring kids here underneath those circumstances, those kids are going to end up going through the same thing. So it ends up being a perpetual generational cycle. Okay. I don't know why people don't think about that. It seems obvious to me. I don't know. They just don't think about that. It's so weird, but it's like insane, so that's why one of the things that scientists worry about is we're getting a lot of the people that we don't want who are the ones having kids, and the ones that we want having kids are not. And that's a problem because then your society is not productive. Then you end up with, like, say, moms that can't let go of their sons because they're like using their sons as some type of weird replacement for like the attention they didn't get from like a husband or another male. You end up with all these like weird things, so yeah, that's been a problem in the past, and they had to fabricate some things to try to rectify that situation. It was a mess, but yeah. I remember when that happened, when Pluto got kicked off. And all of a sudden Pluto wasn't a planet anymore. I was like, huh? But yeah, so poor Pluto getting kicked out of the planet table for being too small. I know. I'm taking that literally because I remember when that happened, I think I was in high school when they said Pluto couldn't be a planet anymore because it was too small. I was like, really? That's so funny to me. Oh my gosh. Anyways, y'all. Yeah, boy moms are a big problem. Yep. Yeah, I love me too. I love Pluto too. Yeah, but boy moms are a big problem. I always recommend, I don't mind these trends, like not trends, but like say like women, there's women out there that want to date males so the males can pay their bills, for example. It wouldn't be my recommendation for how to proceed because I'm fully aware of what males are capable of. And I know that I always say males are dumb, like they don't even know what 2 + 2 is. But the one thing males are not dumb at is survival. Okay. So you better believe that if you're trying to get money out of them, it's not something that they're not going to be aware of. Right. So your thinking has to be very, very out of societal norms if you're going to pull something like that off. successfully. It's rare to pull that off successfully, and usually you would have to kind of switch off your emotions in order to do that. Most women are not able to switch off emotions, so for most women it's not going to work. Okay. So there's a strategy for everything. Is it my recommendation? Probably not, because the way that you build self-confidence as a woman is by just owning and having your own space and your own things. And it's a better barrier of protection against predators, against unalivers, against users, but again, because women are so different, the variety is important. The variety is important. And I listen to all types of YouTube channels and like that talk about, even the ones that talk about that. I enjoy listening to it because, those ladies are very, very wise a lot of times in telling women the true nature of men in a behaviorally descriptive way. So it's enjoyable to me sometimes to watch it. But I also think it's dangerous because, most women don't really actually understand that, it's just in your best interest to not deal with males, because the danger, like they don't understand the danger, the extent of the danger that they're putting themselves in to try to get these things done. It's like they're not taking it seriously, so they're going to go down with that shit, but that's one of the biggest things. I like diversity of thought, so I listen to a lot of those. I listen to a lot of politics, a lot of history stuff, same thing when it comes to books. But I just don't think that a lot of women are taking the time to really sit down and think about the risk. It's like investing. When you invest in stocks and things like that, it's a higher level of risk that you're taking with your literal life if you choose to try to play that game. So you better get it right, and most women are not going to get it right, because one of the main requirements there is to turn off emotions, okay? To control emotions, turn them off, and most women are not able to do that. Yeah, that's what it ends up being. It's like a game playing around with your safety. Exactly. Because it's like they're not really conceptualizing how truly dangerous that can be when you're playing these games, especially with the male species. So they don't really understand the severity of this issue. And they don't even sit to think about the fact that even the poor males with no money, the risk that women take just by dealing with those males sometimes is even more, so you want to play this game, you should probably sit down and think about that and do some risk assessment and see if that's something that you're willing to gamble, right? Yeah, right. Yeah, same here. I'd much rather just remain alone. And the safety piece is a huge piece. Most women end up chasing males anyway. Doesn't make sense. Like, why are you chasing them? And also, to build self-confidence, you kind of want to like have things that you're building for yourself, so that you don't become a victim unbeknownst to you. You didn't know that that's what was happening, but that's what you end up being. Yeah, an INFJ Discord. I know, but there's only 1% of us. I wonder how many. Yeah, I wonder how many people would join that. I'm trying to think of like a group Discord. So we'll see as we kind of go what we can end up building when it comes to that. So anyways, y'all, so make sure to smash that like button. Make sure to smash that subscribe button. I put the link of the Instagram account and the Blue Sky account, because I'm not on Twitter. I was never on Twitter, I'm not gonna lie to you, but I got a Blue Sky account just to be supportive. And also I figured, why not? And then also TikTok as well. So make sure to go and follow on TikTok, Blue Sky, Instagram. I'll leave the links in the comments section as well. And I'm really, really glad that you guys joined me today. Yay! But we're gonna go ahead and probably call it a day. Yeah, at like 21, I realized how dangerous males are. I was mortified that I was comfortable lying next to a male. Yeah, join Blue Sky for sure. Yeah. You know, I try not to like intermingle the channel with too much politics, but Elon Musk is out of control, okay? Like, I think he's probably about to have to get a divorce from the orange guy pretty soon, because those two personalities do not mesh, and that orange guy is going to get tired of Elon Musk pretty soon. Unless he needs the money, then maybe not. But I think that to be honest, I'm more independent when it comes to politics. I'm not Democrat or Republican. But there's which one's the less evil? That's how I think about it. So yeah, definitely join Blue Sky. Yeah, at 21. Some women take longer to get there. So the number one recommendation, again, ladies, if you're gonna do something with males, just don't do it until you're like 27, 28. Trust me. Okay. Don't get married. Don't have kids until you're like 27, 28. That is the best advice I can give you. But yeah, the women that see it sooner end up happier because they avoid a lot of traumatizing situations at the hands of males, right? So yeah, good. So thank you guys. I love you so much. Hit the like, subscribe. Thank you so much for joining me. Yeah, they don't understand the dangers of males. Yeah, they don't. And they're so young and impressionable. So the males have a field trip, when it comes to youngins. So we'll keep talking about these type of things. And also make sure to keep track of the community section. I post a lot of updates in the community section. I don't know why. I think it's just like easy for me to do. So make sure to keep track of the community section for updates as well. And I will see y'all in the next one. Okay. Bye.